Thank you for watching. This is the live broadcast. A reaction to Ghost Adventures Live is one of the key topics of this live stream. But I'm also going to be talking about other things, such as haunted, spooky things, ghosts. I am a ghost investigator, John Razimus, of Mysterialis Ghost Investigation. Check out my YouTube channel that you're looking at right now. Just click whatever to find it. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different stuff. I'm a legitimate experiencer of poltergeist activity. Lived in a haunted room for 6 months. It actually happened. No fake story. It's real. It actually happened. I just got to double check to make sure I've tweeted it out, and I have not. So here I am. I'm tweeting it out so people know that this live stream even exists. A little bit complicated, but I'm getting the hang of it. I don't do too many live streams. Ghost Adventures. I just watched it. I just got back off work, actually, and I turn on the TV at the key moment, the most pinnacle moment of this episode of Ghost Adventures Live. This is what happened. I turn on the TV to the Travel Channel, and they bring in the rabbi. And for the first time, Zach is interviewing this rabbi to an extent. Zach says, "Do you have any warnings before we open the Dybbuk box?" And the rabbi's like, not really. And Zach's like, are you concerned of any spirits attached to the Dybbuk box that might, And the rabbi's like, it's pretty rare. Not too concerned. And Zach's like, what do you know about Dybbuk boxes? And the rabbi's like, not too much. I searched it today for the first time because you guys told me about it. And Zach has a very puzzled look on his face. I'm a TIE Fighter X-Wing Star Wars character, by the way. It's supposed to be Luke Skywalker. Anyway. So Zach, but I didn't paint the helmet yet. Zach is furious a little bit. He's holding back. He's like, you know what? You're supposed to be an expert on Dybbuk boxes. He says, what advice do you have about the Dybbuk box? I don't know. And the rabbi's like, man, I know this is off script. This doesn't go with the script, and they pretty much don't talk to the rabbi for the rest of it. They go into the Dybbuk box room. Aaron is touching it, and they have 1 or 2 spirit boxes on. And I do hear something, but I can't hear it. They can hear it. They claim the voices on these boxes say, open it. Some of them say, don't open it. I guess most of them say, don't open it. And one of them said, open it, mischievously. And 1 or 2 people are touching the Dybbuk box at this point. And Zach has to explain, this rabbi begged to come on the show to help seal the demon back into the Dybbuk box after they open it. This rabbi claimed to be an expert at Dybbuk boxes, knowing everything about Dybbuk boxes. And then he comes on and claims to not know anything about Dybbuk boxes and not have any warnings about opening it. So something happened. Some switch happened. We don't know what this switch was. Was it a planned, purposefully executed, planned, scripted thing? I got to lift the goggle visor thing real quick so I can see a little bit better. See? All right. So thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, or if you want to add anything, feel free to. But I just watched Ghost Adventures Live, and there was a huge faux pas. There was a huge snag in the script. The whole buildup, we're talking for 2 months straight. Zach has been building up opening the Dybbuk box for 2 months. Subtly, he'll tweet something. Subtly, TMZ will release a story. Zach clearly has a connection with TMZ, and they release stories simultaneously. And, they're promoting the Haunted Museum, an amazing museum from what I've seen, good reviews. I want to go check it out. I want to see it. But I haven't been in Vegas ever since its existence. It's only on its 1-year anniversary. It's a fairly new museum. Zach bought a haunted house. He bought a haunted mansion, already haunted, with known witchcraft in the basement, already known, purposefully, and then filled it with haunted objects, knowing that if one of the objects aren't haunted, at least it's already a haunted house. It's a win-win situation if you want to have a haunted museum. So this is the setting of the Dybbuk box, already in a haunted mansion to begin with. And the rabbi claimed he was an expert at Dybbuk boxes. He claimed he could seal the Dybbuk box back in. And Dybbuk boxes is of the Jewish tradition, of the Jewish religion. And so clearly he didn't get a priest. He got a rabbi. But Zach said there is a very well-known rabbi in Las Vegas who did warn him, and he took it to this rabbi after he first purchased it so he could give him advice on what to do, what not to do. So that's the first thing he did after he purchased this Dybbuk box for tens of thousands of dollars. I don't know how much, but $50,000 and up. He paid a lot of money for this Dybbuk box. It's a very famous object. It is the inspiration for the movie The Possession. In that movie, a little girl becomes possessed. So Hollywood changed it a little bit. They changed what the Dybbuk box looks like a little bit. But the real one from the real story that movie is based on is the Dybbuk box in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. And because the rabbi didn't seem to know anything about Dybbuk boxes or had amnesia, conveniently, it's very strange situation. I can think of a few scenarios off the top of my head. Perhaps, I'm sure Zach is running through this right now. I'm sure Zach is saying to himself, is this sabotage? Is one of my ghost investigating rivals? Did they send this guy to ruin the show? I don't know, but is it some type of religious thing? Did they think even promoting this Dybbuk box is some type of mockery? I don't know. I don't know what the motivation would even be to not want to give advice, because I think rabbi to rabbi, priest to priest, you're going to get a priest that knows a lot about exorcisms. And then you're going to get a priest that's scared to death of exorcisms and knows nothing about them. The same thing is going to be in the Jewish religion. You're going to get a rabbi that knows a lot about the subject of Dybbuks and one that doesn't particularly study the subject or even believe much in the subject. A lot of different versions. There are agnostic style priests, believe it or not, even though it's a very organized institution on each side, but there are more believing and less believing in different subjects and different things. It's curious to me. I think he wanted to be on the show. He got on the show. Maybe he froze up. Maybe the rabbi that Zach communicated that was an expert at Dybbuk boxes, maybe he at the last second, he freaked out. He didn't want to be on the show. Maybe it scared him. And maybe he switched and asked a different rabbi to take his place. We don't know. We're going to find out the details, I'm sure, shortly. I'm sure Zach will be happy to clear up what happened, because it's a huge snafu in the show. They had to go to Peggy, the haunted doll, as a backup. When Zach saw that the Dybbuk box built up for many months, you got to understand, like a month ago, Post Malone footage was leaked to TMZ. Zach and Post Malone were hanging out, they're buddies. Zach took the case off the Dybbuk box. This is about a month ago. And Zach touched the Dybbuk box. And you can see orbs in the video. Very interesting. A lot of orbs. And it's black and white CCTV type footage. Zach has these in every room in the Haunted Museum. And Post Malone touches Zach's shoulder. And I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks later, Post Malone had a car accident. And so articles are written, and Zach said, yeah, it could have been the Dybbuk box. Could have been the demon we don't know. So a lot of hype and build up for, is he or is he not going to open the Dybbuk box? I tweeted he probably opens it secretly on his own all the time. Happy Halloween. That's cool, man. Brandon Young. So it seems like they could have planned ahead. Yeah. In my opinion, this is what I would have done. I would have vetted the rabbi long before the live show taping. I would have vetted him. I would have got to know him a week before at least to see his opinions on spirits, because he seemed very unconcerned and basically said it's very rare. And maybe he's right. Spirits doing phenomenal things on TV shows it's hyped up, but it is very rare. I'm a ghost investigator, despite what I look like right now. This is my Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot costume, but I do have a couple $1,000s worth of ghost investigating equipment, and I only started in January. I'm going to give it up. I'm pretty much cutting it off. I have enough. I would like to join a team, though. I wouldn't mind joining a team. But I wouldn't want to be some lowly sidekick. I do have what it takes to capture evidence, but the shows definitely hype and build up things. I would have vetted the rabbi. I would have made sure he was the right one. I think just a miscommunication. You know what I mean? If Zach's going to have an exorcism, Zach has, if you watch enough Ghost Adventure shows, you see exorcisms take place. There's at least 3 exorcism episodes of Ghost Adventures. I've gone through the different seasons, and I found at least 3 fairly scary episodes with exorcisms. And they bring in 2 priests. There's 2 priests Zach is familiar with, a lady or a woman and a guy priest, and they do the holy water stuff. And that's not my religion. And I'm not even. I don't even think that's Zach's religion, but he knows they're experts at exorcisms, and he has built a rapport with them. He should have done the same thing with a rabbi. So maybe they thought he was a gimmick. And so maybe as a response of the gimmickness of it, they didn't want to participate. It's hard to say. It's interesting, man. It's going to be a big workup to open it. Yeah, they're going to open it eventually. In my personal opinion, Zach's already opened it before. There's a video on YouTube. Just type in the Dybbuk box. You'll find it. Of maybe 2 owners back, maybe 3 owners back. I think it's only 2 owners back. The guy, okay, there's an original story. I think he got it at a garage sale, just like the movie, but I'm not super expert when it comes to the real story. But the real story, a guy bought a Dybbuk box, maybe at a garage sale, gave it to his mom as a gift, and his mom died almost immediately. Now, we don't know the state of the condition of his mom, and it's a sad story either way. But maybe a little bit too much credit was given to the box. I do believe in spirits, though. But believing in spirits, you still got to believe in some rational thinking. Otherwise, you don't believe in everything and anything and everything. But I think, who knows? There's an episode of Deadly Possessions where Zach brings this guy on the show. Deadly Possessions is a spinoff of Ghost Adventures. And I think it's about a year-old show, and I think there's only 1 season. I hope they bring it back because it's Zach at the Haunted Museum showcasing different haunted objects that he owns. And some people donate these objects to him. Some people sell it to him. And the Dybbuk box was a showcase main featured haunted object in one episode. And Zach wants people to interact with these objects. So he brings people to interact with them. Sometimes it's his own employees, like the haunted Bela Lugosi mirror. Someone donates the haunted Bela Lugosi mirror to Zach. It's a very interesting mirror. People that stare into it, they see lights in the same location of the mirror. Multiple people see strange lights in the same spot on the mirror, whether the mirror is damaged and it's a light illusion or if it's actually paranormal reflections only seen after you stare and have a trance-like state. I don't know, but interesting things happened when they took it down to the basement. Aaron Goodwin stared into it, and he said he saw a vision of himself when he was old. So that's pretty freaky. And Zach's like, tell me if you have any nightmares. And how they're his employees. And so it'd be kind of freaky, but it'd be interesting to work there. So back onto the Dybbuk box episode. The guy whose mom died, he hates with a passion this Dybbuk box. He despises it. And but Zach wants to give him some closure because he blames the box or the demon attached to the box or inside, trapped, whatever the case, for killing his mom. So Zach feels, maybe get some closure, but at the same time, interesting TV with this guy that hates the box for obvious reasons, very strong reasons. And so Zach puts the box in the basement, the same location as the Bela Lugosi mirror. Zach seems to always put stuff in this haunted basement where witchcraft did take place. It's one of the reasons Zach bought the house, because it was haunted and summonings took place in the past, I believe in the 70s. And so the strangest thing about this episode, you have to look it up or find it somehow, but it's called Deadly Possessions, the Dybbuk box episode. I think there's a second haunted object in this episode, but the Dybbuk box segment is interesting because it's in the basement. This guy whose mom died because of the box, he sold it to someone. That person sold it to someone, or maybe they sold it to Zach. Zach paid $50,000 plus for it. But when the son, and he's a big man, he's a big man. He's full grown, past maybe he's middle aged, and he walks down the stairs, and he starts reciting a poem, like a 5-minute poem that he memorized. And this poem he wrote himself. I Googled it. This poem doesn't exist. So it's the poem's about invisible creatures and shadows in the night and footsteps and creaks. It's a very creepy poem. So this guy starts to recite this creepy poem for 5 minutes straight, just nonstop, not a single pause. And he almost appeared to be possessed. People in the comments said, when I looked for reviews of the episode, said he's probably staged, he's probably an actor, but he's not an actor. Was it staged? It would have taken a lot of time for me to memorize that poem. It seemed like he had such a grudge against the spirit in the Dybbuk box that he wrote a spell, like a magic spell, to bind it and cast it away. It's a very freaky episode. It's one of the freakier episodes. It's probably the freakiest episode I've ever seen of Deadly Possessions. But what are your thoughts? If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave any comments. So it was a big bust. They go to the Peggy room. Zach unlocks Peggy, the haunted doll. I believe I've seen an episode of Peggy being in the basement of the haunted museum, and they surround her with REM pods, and the REM pods do go off. Legitimate static electricity fields being manipulated, filmed clearly, and an EVP is even recorded during the process. So it is a doll that a spirit definitely follows or possesses. As far as possessions, I don't know how possessions of a doll works. I think a spirit is going to follow it as opposed to be inside of it. So Zach's holding up Peggy in this Ghost Adventures Live episode. He's like, "What do you see, Peggy? What do you see?" And even they took pictures and they see an orb. He hands it to one of his employees, and I think they captured an orb behind her. And that could be the spirit hanging out behind her, because the spirit isn't literally inside of Peggy, although I'm sure that's possible, but the spirit's hanging out in the room and it can see everybody. And Zach, maybe he does it for show. It's hard to say. Everyone has a different belief on how spirits work, but how spirits possess objects. I think spirits aren't inside of an object, except for maybe temporarily if they want to hang out inside of it. But spirits can walk through objects. I think they're just following an object if they really want to. They might have some of their energy signature embedded in the object. They might be able to find it no matter where it goes based on something strange like that. But Ghost Adventures Live, it was pretty cool. I liked the mistakes. It made the show more interesting. It made it more authentic. I'm sorry this isn't part of the script. Man, Zach, that probably this is the line that really ticked off Zach. I'm sure Zach had segments ready to go, like the Ouija board, and a backup was Peggy, apparently. And wow, yeah. But I'm going to talk about other things as well. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Montauk Project, but I'm sure you've heard of Stranger Things, kind of a famous show on Netflix. I'm sure you've heard of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a movie starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. Well, those two movies, very famous. They're directly inspired by the Montauk Project book and books. And whether you believe the books are true or not, I'll give my opinion later on, but whether you believe it's true or not, this book inspired Stranger Things and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, and it is an interesting read. Now, personally, I don't think this book speaks the 100% blunt truth. I think there's definitely a lot of fantasy mixed in with it. But the reason I'm bringing this book up, the Montauk Project, is because not too many days ago, on October 5th, the author of this book, Preston B. Nichols, passed away. Rest in peace. He passed away. And I happen to have researched the Montauk Project for many years. We're talking 20 years. I bought all the books. I have 2 copies. I have 2 copies of Experiments in Time. And back in the year 1999, 2000, there was a forum, montaukproject.com. And I went on there with other fans of the book. This is a long time ago, 1999, 2000. And we chatted about theories. Is it true or is it not? Can you prove it? Is it provable? The Montauk Project has been dubbed the greatest conspiracy of all time, or the mother of all conspiracies. Yeah. But Preston B. Nichols wasn't invited on too many shows, or maybe just didn't go on too many radio shows. There's a few interviews of him here and there. He passed away. Preston B. Nichols, rest in peace. And Peter Moon definitely edited this book, but the author is Preston B. Nichols. Peter Moon met Preston Nichols at a UFO conference, and Preston was talking about the story. Peter Moon approached him afterwards and said, "Hey, I never heard that story before. Where'd you hear it?" He said, I lived it. And he said, "Can you find anywhere where it's written?" And according to what I read on the forums, locals did know about conspiracy theories involving Camp Hero, Montauk Air Force Base on Long Island in New York, which was supposedly turned into a top secret facility, but really it was just a radar Air Force base for radar defense. It's situated exactly as the first thing a submarine would have entered the East Coast from. And so it was a perfect location for the radar dish, which is a famous radar dish, which Preston B. Nichols says that radar dish was used to open up time portals. People could walk right through. There's a chapter in here where Preston says he's one of the first humans in modern history to walk on the planet Mars. So it's an interesting chapter where he talks about how he walked on Mars. Do I believe he walked on Mars? No, I do not believe that happened. But nevertheless, it's still a fantastical story. It's still an interesting story. And he does say you can read it like it's science fiction if you would like. When I first read this book, and not only the first one, but the second one, Adventures in Synchronicity, and the third one, Explorations in Consciousness, I was very impressionable. I was in high school, as a senior in high school, when I read this book. And this is before Harry Potter existed. There wasn't anything too much interesting. I'm more interested in what's true. Because it's portrayed as true, it was a more interesting read. As I aged and got older, I realized, after researching the heck out of it, that Preston B. Nichols, he told a lot of fantastical stories. And I saw, well, there's a scene in this book where Preston says there's an artificial intelligence computer that created a beast. And the beast was randomly tearing down things. And Preston got an axe and chopped the power lines because unplugging it didn't do anything. It kind of siphoned energy straight from the power lines. And I saw that exact scene in Superman 3, where Richard Pryor's character has to chop the wires of a supercomputer with AI that's getting energy straight from the power lines. And then there's a movie called Forbidden Planet, starring Leslie Nielsen. before he did the Naked Gun movies. It's a very awesome movie. Check it out, Forbidden Planet. In that movie, there's a supercomputer, artificial intelligence. It repairs itself. And that computer created a subconscious beast that destroys things, exactly like the beast creature manifestation that destroys things in this book. Preston B. Nichols was an expert at science fiction. He was a fan of it. I think he watched those movies, absorbed it. I think he incorporated it. Did he ever work for Camp Hero? Possibly. He definitely has electrician expertise, but rest in peace. It's too bad that he has left us. I did message Preston in the year 2000 a couple times. I maybe got like 5 messages from him. I asked him a few questions. He was on the forums for a very short few weeks. Because I was on those forums all the time, I caught him in that window. Peter Moon was also on the forums briefly, and a couple other figures are mentioned in the books. And I asked Preston, I said, hey, do you know any secrets you could tell me about the Montauk Project? This is when I believed it. This is when I believed. And Preston said, you know the horse on the cover? I said, yeah, that horse right there. I said, he said, this horse. In the book, this horse is in the year 6037, way in the future, 6037. They open a portal. The people in charge of the project, Black Project, whatever the case. And I don't believe it really happened, but it's still a fascinating story. Feel free to believe. But in the future, everything was annihilated after a horrible world war, apparently a nuclear world war that wiped out everything. And they open up the portal, everything's gone except for this statue is the only thing standing in like a desert plateau with everything destroyed. And they send Montauk boys to check out the inscription. Perhaps the inscription changed due to timelines. I don't know. But Preston said this to me. He said, and this isn't a DM, this is like a personal message. And I did extensively search. And I think he said it a second time. I don't know if he's ever said it again. Maybe he repeated it to 10 people, but it's still pretty exclusive information. Preston said, you know, the artwork on the cover of the book? I said, yeah, the horse. I said, yeah. He said, the real horse that he saw on the monitors. Preston never walked through that portal in 6037 personally, but he said he was in the control room with the monitors, and he said he saw it. He said the artist who was hired to draw this, paint this, they added the clock for artistic license representational purposes. He said the actual horse didn't have a clock belly in its belly. The clock dial was never there. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing. And Preston said he found the base. He found the base in real life and acquired the base and had the base. This, I don't know what shape it is, but a square-looking pyramid-type object. He said he has it on his property. He has located it. He has found it. But supposedly was never constructed before his passing. Rest in peace. But famously, the Denver Airport horse sculpture, which was commissioned, and the guy who built that gigantic fiberglass with red glowing eyes monstrosity of a horse at the Denver airport, the guy who constructed it died during the construction, and the son had to finish the paint job. But because the original creator of that work of art, and it's a cool piece, it just looks kind of scary. It looks like this. It looks like the Montauk Project horse, and everyone says, oh, that's the horse. That's the horse. So that's where the annihilation is, Denver Airport. But according to Preston, that's not the horse. Preston said the horse was mechanical and metal. The Denver Airport horse is blue, but besides being blue, it's made out of fiberglass, but a very resilient, weatherproof, boat quality fiberglass that's virtually indestructible. But the son of the original artist was able to paint it with the mixed paint that his dad already mixed. So because his dad already mixed it, he was officially his dad's work of art. Pretty cool piece of art. You can Google that. Very famous, Denver Airport. So that's true about Superman. So what are you talking about, Superman? Yep, it inspired Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Now, very loosely. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, very loosely. But I can tell you this. The director of that movie wanted to film at Camp Hero. He wanted to film at the base with the radar dish in this book because it's based or inspired by this book. And the whole plot behind Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is this technology. You put on a helmet in the movie, whatever, and your memory can be wiped. Your memory can be completely wiped. And that's the plot behind the interesting story between two people who find each other. And Preston B. Nichols said the government wiped his mind after he worked on these secret time travel government projects, which I personally don't believe are true. The mother of all conspiracies. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I did research it for 20 years, approximately, pretty thoroughly. I researched this project enough to find government documents proving that Camp Hero was officially open in 1984 and closed in 1985, even though officially on the official, super official, obvious records, it closed in 1983. 1 year difference, big deal. But it does synchronize. It does synchronize a little bit with the secret. They kept it open longer. Maybe that 1 year was the time travel experiments. I further dug and dug and dug and dug to the point where I found a .gov website that said, listed on chemical warfare materials, toxic waste, specifically warfare toxic waste that only the government can handle. And Camp Hero was listed as one of the sites where they buried toxic waste, warfare material, toxic chemical warfare material. So in 1984, they probably changed these bunkers into toxic waste holders, and then they sealed it off. They did concrete it off. And to this day, there is one security guard and one little security shack with electricity to it, which is a huge conspiracy. Why an abandoned base where they have someone employee? Not only does he kick people out, and there are no trespassing signs, but he's there to protect people from breaking in to the concrete and seeing the barrels, which have been photographed. If you look far back enough, you can see people did. Before it was really sealed off really good. Maybe they didn't seal off a couple of them perfect. And kids did get inside and did take photographs. And there's a lot of moisture in these photos. You can see orbs, but they're moisture orbs, not spirit orbs, from what it looks like. And you can see a lot of barrels. And they're like, oh, a lot of barrels. That's weird. And then I found a couple of years later the website Chemical Warfare. It was a legitimate, apparently the law had to be, the government had to display all the legal burial sites of toxic waste. And Camp Hero was one of them. It was used because it's an abandoned military base, perfect location for toxic waste from the government's perspective. They have to keep people out. And that's the truth. It's a boring truth. I researched this thing to the point where the commander of the base, who was the commander of Montauk Air Force Base Camp Hero, I emailed him on the alumni of Camp Hero employees. There's an alumni page. You can find it. At least I found it back in the year 2000 or 2005-ish, a long time ago. And I emailed him. I said, hey, you heard about the time travel conspiracy stuff. What's your opinion on that? Did they have any experiments? Preston said there were a lot of experiments on people, time travel experiments, mind experiments. And perhaps the whole thing was just a mind experiment where they thought they were time traveling when they were just taking drugs. There was an LSD room found, but perhaps it was done after the fact. It's hard to say. It's hard to prove. But according to the commander, and Of course, he could cover it up if he wanted to, but he said, I have no reason to lie. A couple of the soldiers smoked pot, but no experiments that I know of. And the time travel stuff is BS. He was very blunt. And I emailed everyone on the list, and it was a small list. It was like 15 people. Most of the emails came back. The email didn't work anymore. But I only got a second reply from a soldier. And the soldier confirmed they smoked pot on the base, and he didn't see much else other than that. He said, if there was drugs, it was personal drug use, no official acid tests, anything like that. Although it has been documented, acid tests have been done in the past, but this even took place before early 1980s, late 1970s. This was way before that. But if anyone has any questions, you want to talk about Ghost Adventures more, or I have more stuff planned. All right, this is the Halloween. Are we still live? I was going to read a few verses out of a few pages, or just maybe one page out of this book. It's kind of structured kind of like a book that would have verses. Oh my goodness. What is going on? Yikes. My book collection. I need to keep closer attention. I'm seeing bug bites. Oh my goodness, there's bug bites. Luckily, this is one of my cheapest books. Oh my goodness, I have some very expensive books up there. I didn't know I had some mischievous little termite or whatever it is. Yikes. Bug's been eating my book. This book is called The Sacred Book of Death, Hindu Spiritism, Soul Transition, and Soul Reincarnation by L.W. DeLawrence. This is just a copy. This is just a reproduction. But I have an original in the plastic. Hopefully the plastic has saved these expensive books. Yikes. All right. 15 people watching. Can someone leave a comment? I'm going to read just a little bit of this book. I read about one chapter of this book, and it was very interesting. I have so many books, and I have a list I have to do a book review of. This is a scary, The Sacred Book of Death, and I thought it'd be interesting to read during Halloween. Let's just read a little bit. Let's just read a little bit. All right. Okay. So we got reincarnation chapter. Nah, let's find something more interesting. Ooh, the dread of the devil. Yikes. All right. Let's read chapter, I don't know, but it's page 85, the dread of the devil. Fear must also be reckoned among the causes of madness. Dread of the devil has deranged many a brain, and who shall say how many victims have been made by impressing weak imaginations with pictures of which the horrors are enhanced by the hideous details so ingeniously worked into them. He has a good point. Some people see a medieval drawing of hell with the devil, and it's scary, and they think it's 100% literally that's what's going on. It's symbolic to an extent, but it's literal to an extent. Depends on your belief, I guess. But this is, it's kind of interesting. Let's see where he goes with this. Details. So, it's Halloween related to an extent. The devil, it is sometimes said, frightens only little children, whom it helps to make docile and well-behaved. Yes. But only as do nursery terrors and bugaboos in general. And when these have lost their power, they who have been subjected to this sort of training are apt to be worse than before. Okay, not the best chapter, not the best verse. I read a chapter in this book which said DeLawrence had contact with negative spirits. It freaked the crap out of him. And he said, how come I haven't had contact with angels? Where's all these good spirits? I've only exclusively had contact with negative ones. What's going on? and he ponders it for an entire chapter. And no one ponders something like that for an entire chapter, in my opinion, unless it's real, unless it actually happened to him. LW is a pretty famous occultist. He did practice magic, so of course he's going to have negative spirits following him to an extent. And I can tell you a scary story. Just last night, I heard 4 creaks in this corner right here. Very prominent, very loud. That tells me a freaking spirit was preparing for this live stream, but not interested, not welcome. I don't want any spirits messing anything. Preston B. Nichols passed away, rest in peace. He told me a very fascinating detail about the golden horse on the cover of the book. And I have a lot of ghost hunting equipment. If I was a clickbait ghost hunter, if I was a clickbait ghost investigator, I'd turn on all this equipment and let's contact Preston B. Nichols right now. But I'm not going to, because I think it's disrespectful. I think there's a window, and a lot of beliefs say it's 3 days that spirits hang out and then they ascend. I think that's probably pretty accurate. Although family members say they've talked to loved ones in dreams, I believe that is possible as well. I just think there's a guy on YouTube, Robin Williams died. The day Robin Williams died, he got out his ghost box and he said, "Oh, that's Robin Williams," just for clickbait, just for views. And it ticked me off. It ticked me off so bad that, I want to make it a point to never do anything like that. Oh, yeah, I got an album in the mail. So I can do an unboxing real quick of this record I got in the mail. And it's sort of spooky related. Zach was afraid to open the Dybbuk box. Hey, Dybbuk box. Heard about the book called The Demonologist. My friend said he had some weird, scary vibes while reading it. I'll tell you this. The scarier the book, spirits will almost read over your shoulder. Whether it's H.P. Lovecraft and pure fiction, whether it's an occult book like this, The Sacred Book of Death, Spiritualism. Apologize, I had pizza before this stream. Someone gave me some pizza. The Sacred Book of Death, Hindu Spiritism, Soul Transition, and Soul Reincarnation. L.W. Lawrence is a legitimate occultist. I haven't got any vibes reading this stuff, but most definitely some other stuff. The Necronomicon, for example. I think personally the Necronomicon is fiction. It's extremely fiction. The Mad Arab, it's almost hilarious fiction. And the drawings are very childishly drawn. These are supposedly exactly transcribed from some ancient scroll or some ancient manuscript. I guess that one looks all right, but no, it doesn't. There's just inconsistencies. And Peter Lavenda greatly likely took part in this book's invention. And the guy who did the artwork around it, at first they're like, that's a little bit cheesy. See the little red border and the famous Necronomicon logo? A guy who was an art was his industry. He designed those as well as many other things. And at first I thought it was a little too corny to add the red border. He's like, you can add it. It's no big deal. But reading something like this, you can definitely summon spirits. Even though it's fake, how could it summon spirits? Well, there's a guy who read this book. And this book I saw this book in a photograph in the library or whatever the place has bookshelves and books in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. So Zach purposely has the Necronomicon in his haunted museum. But there's a guy who read this book and he came across the gate. There's a gate in this book. Let me find the gate. Different sigils. Okay, here's one of the gates, it looks like. So here's one of the gates. He draws the gate on the ground of a graveyard. He does exactly what the book says. Maybe he improvises a little bit. And he said he fell to the ground and passed out and left his body and went to a different dimension. And then he woke up on the ground like many hours later, like the next morning. So even though this is fiction, it can summon some pretty scary, freaky stuff. Don't go to a graveyard at night. Don't draw sigils on the ground and do that. I don't recommend that. You read Lovecraft on your stream. Okay. Yeah, people get tattoos of it. I don't know what that's going to do. I'm going to do an unboxing real quick of a record, an album I got. It is sort of horror themed. As far as Ghost Adventures reaction, Zach Bagans. I think personally he probably has opened the box a dozen times. You open it up, little shelves pop out. What I was going to say earlier is just Google Dybbuk box. You can see two owners back. They literally have a video, which it looks like almost an unboxing video on YouTube. It's very casual. It's two dudes at a chair with a table, two dudes in chairs at a table, and they just open it up, and it almost looks like a QVC commercial. Dybbuk box for sale. Check it out. Here it is. This is what's inside. They take every single thing out. They put it back in. They're like, that's it. And obviously they're not scared of it. I think those are the guys that sold it to Zach, but I could be wrong. I don't know the level of exact owners. One of the owners did bury it in the ground, like way down and deep, because he was scared of it. I do believe there could be something attached to it based on the hype alone. Demons love hype. They love stories being retold about other demons and themselves, especially. I'm going to open this vinyl record I ordered. I don't know if I'll do the review right now. I did listen to it. I listened to it, the MP3s. But I wanted to get the physical vinyl because I collect vinyls. And this is a musician, which is talented. He's a very famous guy. You've heard of him. Just want to do an unboxing. All right. I collect vinyls. And vinyl experts say, don't call it vinyls. It's vinyl and never has an S. I don't care. And the same Lego, guys. Don't call it Legos. It's Lego. Lego is plural. You know, Legos, vinyls, I don't care, you know. So here it is. Okay. So this is the soundtrack to a movie. It's a brand new movie. The movie is a remake of a horror movie. So it is scary themed, scary related. It's called Suspiria. And Tom York, the lead singer of Radiohead, he did this album. It's the first movie album that he's ever been asked to do. And he said he's not a composer of movies, but his friend, Johnny Greenwood, has done a number of very cool movie soundtracks. And so he thought he'd give it a shot. And he said, you know, it was fun. It was a fun project. I listened to this entire album. It's about, I don't know, an hour and 30 minutes long. It's fairly long. It's fairly long. And there's some scary, ambient, echoey things going on. There's a really nice piano theme that repeats. Very well done. Tom York with his melodious voice. And my favorite track on the entire album is called let's see, it's called, I can't find the name on here. It's called The Balance of Things. There it is right there. The Balance of Things. And that's not been posted anywhere yet, so you have to buy it, I guess, to listen to it. But The Balance of Things, it has very dark, gritty, Western guitar. Almost reminds me of something from the movie Dead Man, starring Johnny Depp, almost, with Neil Young doing the soundtrack to that movie. Really good. And then it has ambient mixed in and has almost a blues feel to it mixed in. And then Tom York's melodious voice over everything, you know, but he does a really good job. I really like this album. I'm going to open it up so we can see what it looks like. But if you'd rather talk about Ghost Adventures, we can do that. You know, I've watched almost every single episode of Ghost Adventures. And at the end, Zach Bagans is obviously trying to save it, but I thought it was a great episode. Zach said, when you're in the room, your emotions change, your thoughts, you second guess yourself. He said, you know, the spirits, they have the ability to change your emotions and almost try to puppeteer you. So you almost have to resist it and fight it. And I can say I personally experienced that firsthand at the Comedy Store just a couple weeks ago. I was there for ghost investigation reasons. They were very defensive there. Perhaps they are being puppeteered. And even myself, I drove like 500 miles and spent a good portion of my money to investigate the Comedy Store because there's a famous ghost that haunts the Comedy Store. And the people were defensive. They didn't want me to investigate. I gave up after night 2 of really filming. So 99% of the footage is from night 1 and day 1. Okay, day 2 and night 1 is 99% of the footage. I wanted to consistently film for 3 days and 3 nights. And just great discouragement happened. And I just gave up. I was like, forget about it. And I drove all that way. We're talking 1,000-mile round trip. And I think it was manipulation to an extent. The spirit didn't want me to investigate. It didn't want me to film even on the sidewalk, which is 100% legal to film on the sidewalk. But you can check out my last video. It is the Comedy Store Ghost Investigation. I spent many, many hours on it. Okay. So here we go. I thought this album was a good deal because it's so big. I mean, it's a double album. 2 vinyls. Suspiria by Tom York. It's a remake of Suspiria, a horror movie. I usually don't take off that, but no big deal. This is what it looks like. Very cool album cover. And very neon. Okay, yep, it opens up. This is what it looks like. Very cool. And I collect colored vinyl specifically. And I saw that it was colored. So I was like, you know what? Let's get it. We have some geometric shapes. Tom likes to draw. And, you know, he's definitely a good artist when it comes to insert album art. All right. So it's nice and pink. Nice and pink. All right. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. This is the album from Tom York, Suspiria. I will play it on my record player, but right now my record player's over there, and I need to fix it. I need to do tone arm rewiring, and it's such a delicate procedure that I don't know how to do it. I have to hire someone to do it, and I haven't done that yet. You love Dead Man. Yeah, Dead Man soundtrack is amazing. Neil Young, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's not the type of album you would buy if you're into just pop or rock. But as a soundtrack for a movie, it's phenomenal. I really want to get that soundtrack. It's pretty rare. Matter of fact, it's super rare. And all I've been able to find are knockoff bootlegs. And I want the real deal. A lot of different countries like Germany, they mass produce bootleg vinyl. And I don't want bootleg because bootleg, they're going to have an MP3 and they're going to burn it off of an MP3 and it's going to sound like garbage compared to the masters being recorded on the original vinyl. The masters versus an MP3, it's going to be miles apart, just common sense. But that's why you want to buy the original vinyl, never a knockoff, unless the bootleg is impossible to find live or something. In that case, you got no option. Yeah, the Eye of Ra. Definitely the Eye of Ra type deal going on. Eyes is a theme on the artwork. It's a scary movie. Suspiria. You know, I did watch the original 1970-something version, and it's a girl who is a dancer. She shows up at a really creepy dance studio. A lot of creepy stuff happens, maybe a murder or two. You have to watch it for yourself, but it's very well directed. And the music repeats. It kind of repeats, kind of like Eyes Wide Shut, sort of. But it's, you know, it's interesting music, and Tom York was inspired by it. And I have not seen the remake. I want to watch the remake with Tom York's music. So the remake, I don't know if it's out yet. Maybe it's in theaters. Maybe it's an Italian film, I believe. And so it would be subtitled. And so probably hasn't hit the US yet. But I want to watch it. I want to find it. I have Raw inside of the album artwork. Sweet vinyl. Yeah. They make a remake. Yeah, they made a remake. So I don't know. Wow, this is a live stream. I had things planned. I was going to play my guitar, but the fact is, with this jumpsuit, it's impossible to do anything. And I bought this jumpsuit about a year ago, and I wish it stretched. It does not stretch. It barely fits me. But Ghost Adventures, you know, Zach, he is an empath to an extent. He's a psychic to an extent. But I don't like those titles, psychic empath. That makes you sound like a 1-900 psychic. It makes you sound fake. So it's understandable why he's not going to be advertising himself as those things. But I think everyone has the ability to feel and sense and detect spirits. There's a freaking spirit in my room last night. It made some considerable creaks. See, I had a stack of albums on here last night, and it's almost like he was checking out my stack of albums. I'll show you the stack of albums right now. I might as well just go through these. I'll talk about this stack of albums. I was planning, this is for a different video I was planning, but let's go for it. Let's just look at these different albums. Serpenile, yeah. This is my old Serpenile. I used to have 3, I believe, but I've gotten it down just to the 1. My best favorite one. All right, so I recently ordered, actually right after she passed away, I ordered this, the turquoise version of the Cranberries, No Need to Argue. And rest in peace, Dolores, lead singer of the Cranberries, passed away, Dolores O'Riordan. And, you know, in this album, she has a song where she says, people think they're better than I am. And so she is really equal. Everyone's the same attitude, really down to earth, a really humble person from her lyrics anyway. And I did go to a live Cranberry show in the year 2001, I believe, 2001. In Las Vegas, Hard Rock Casino. It's called The Joint. So I saw her when she was 27 years old, and I was way young. I was a teenager. And I saw the Cranberries, and they were phenomenal. They were amazing. Their music sounded exactly as good. I mean, it sounded better, but it sounded good. You know, some performers aren't as good as their album. The Cranberries, they're playing Zombie. It sounded phenomenal live, and it was cool to see them play. She was holding a giant Gibson acoustic electric that was huge, and I can barely play the guitar. So it's interesting to see someone holding a gigantic guitar play flawlessly, but they did a great job. So that's one of the reasons I got this album. And I might review some of these albums. I got Bjork's Utopia. I haven't even opened it yet because I play the MP3 and sometimes I never open it. It's for collectible reasons, I guess. But this is Bjork's Utopia album, and it looks kind of freaky. She looks like a freaking demon. Isn't that scary? She has a new, I mean, not new, I'm sure she's had this artist for a while, but she has someone that does her costumes, and this particular artist is making a bunch of masks for her. And I saw Bjork live at FYF Fest a couple years ago. Maybe it was 1 year ago. And Missy Elliott performed after her, and I got to see them front row. and I got the playlist, Bjork's just crew, what do they call it? Roadies. There are easily 7 set lists taped, one for the drummer, one for the bass player, whatever. And so they kept chucking out set lists. So I had 7 chances to get one, and I got one. Let me go get it. It's a pretty cool thing to have. It's not like a show and tell or anything. I really wanted to go through some scary stuff, and we can still have a scary story. I have 6 months of poltergeist stories if anyone wants to hear those. But here's a set list I grabbed at FYF Fest. It's an authentic Bjork set list. The coolest part is there was fire popping up on the stage, and it says pyro for Not Get and Hyper Ballad. Hyper Ballad is a cool song, but my favorite Bjork song of all time is Bachelorette. Bachelorette, just lyrically, poetically, it's like a masterpiece. And Bjork says she wants to create a masterpiece one day. She's already created a good amount of masterpieces, in my opinion. So that's why I got this. Like I said, I don't always open my albums. This is the last Bjork album I got. I never opened it because it's the color version. That's the color version. This is Bjork Volna Cura. And she's in the Black Lake right there with her heart ripped open because something happened to her really sad. All right. We have the Bill and Ted Wild Stallions album. I'm extremely lucky to get this because I'm a huge Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure fan, 1 and 2. Huge fan of the movies. I'm probably as big a Bill and Ted fan as I am Back to the Future. I'm a huge fan of time travel, whether it's fictional or people claiming it's real. And this is the Wild Stallions album. There's Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is Ted in the movie. And Winters, I can't remember his first name. Is it Jonathan Winters? Is Bill. And they are going to do a Bill and Ted 3. They're making a 3rd movie. They're making a new one. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. The saddest thing is Rufus, a stand-up comedian, a genius guy. He's not going to be in it. What's his name? What's that comedian's name? What's Rufus's real name? Name is George Carlin. That's right, George Carlin. So George Carlin, obviously, rest in peace, passed away a good number of years ago, but he's not going to be able to be in it. That's pretty sad. But I got this, and I'm lucky to get it because it was on Mondo, and it was like a sale, and there's only like 1,000 or something, some very low number, and I'm at work, and I'm on my phone, and on a break or whatever, and I am trying to buy it, and it's selling out, and bam, luckily, like probably seconds before it sold out, I snagged one, and I didn't buy 1,000 for the resellers that do that, I'm sure, but just bought one. It's the soundtrack to Bill and Ted's. Yeah, can't wait. I am going to open it up. It's pretty cool. And I just collect random, I don't want to break my albums, but here's a Clockwork Orange sealed. And sealed you think is a good thing, but in the record world, in the vinyl world, it can be both a good or a bad thing. But with this one, it looks like it's fine because they hole punched it. And the reason they hole punch it is because vinyls warp and they get destroyed over time. So they hole punch it so there's some ventilation and so it doesn't warp. And it's perfectly flat, so it has not warped. So it is sealed, but there is one hole punch on the side. But it's still pretty cool. I might open it up. I'm a big fan of the soundtrack of Clockwork Orange. I really like the Walter Carlos, Wendy Carlos music on here. Very cool stuff. This one I haven't played, but I really look forward to it. This is a cool edition of The Prisoner. Patrick McGowan 1967 TV show, The Prisoner. Well, they came out with a special edition white vinyl. Clearly, it's supposed to be Rover. And this is Patrick McGowan stuck inside of Rover. And it's just a cool vinyl. I had to get it because you rarely see decorative vinyls like this. I don't like the picture vinyl where you see the artist's full face or picture or something. But this is something different. This is creative. I liked it. And I haven't played it yet, but looks pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of The Prisoner. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Back to the Future and time travel movies. So I had to get Back to the Future vinyl. And the set is so huge. There's a vinyl for each movie, almost. This is the vinyl for Back to the Future Part 3. And here is the vinyl for Back to the Future Part 2. And, you know, it's pretty elaborate. Also a Mondo thing. And here's the vinyl for Back to the Future Part 1. Wow. I thought there was 4. Maybe there only are 3. Okay. Well, it's a pretty cool set. I had to get it because it has some of the songs that you never hear ever, like the intermediate songs, like the hoverboard chase song, stuff like that. Really cool songs you never hear normally displayed or available on a soundtrack. But one of my favorite movie soundtracks, and it's not a popular movie. You might have heard of it. It's called Thief. Thief, starring James Caan. Willie Nelson is in it. You know, it's a very cool movie. Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack. I'm a huge fan of Tangerine Dream. And after searching, listening to 1,000 Tangerine albums, they have like 1 million albums, I came across my favorite song on a different Tangerine album. They grabbed and put it into this album, but it still fits perfectly. My favorite song on this album is called Tailed/The Break-In. It's like a 7-minute song, and it's amazing, in my opinion. I love this style of music, Tangerine Dream. They did a great job. And this album is supposedly signed. I got it off eBay. I don't know if it's real autographs or not. It's either real or fake. People that fake autographs, that take me off. I didn't buy it for their autographs. It was too cheap, telling me they're probably fake. But here's a fake Willie Nelson autograph. I don't know if that's real or not. Who knows? But Thief is a cool movie. Thief is for free on YouTube unless they took it down. But you can find it. It's a really cool heist movie. I'm a big fan of heist movies. I think Thief is one of the best heist movies of all time. My personal opinion. Probably one of my rarest albums of all time is this one right here. And it wouldn't be a highly sought after one except among Beethoven fans. This is a Beethoven album, and it is a test pressing. And there's only, let's see, I don't know how many there are, but I think there were like 10 or 20. There's only like 10 or 20 test pressings from the master. And I got it because it would be the highest possible quality version of the recording of this Beethoven symphony. And it's a famous symphony. It's like London Symphony Orchestra or something like that. It's a pretty famous recording, but this is a test pressing. Oh yeah, that's right. It's 200 grams. So it's extremely thick for audiophiles. They like the extra thick so the needle can really get the perfect sound. And I believe it's demagnetized. So it's a demagnetized, like 1 out of 10 test pressing, 200 gram Beethoven of Beethoven's Ninth. The Ninth Symphony, my favorite one, the one from A Clockwork Orange. And actually, a lot of Beethoven fans were bidding. We were bidding like crazy. And I bid too much on this. This was a couple years ago, about 2 years ago I got it. And I have not opened it because my turntable, I still got to get the still got to fix the tone arm. But the tone arm is so expensive that if I took it to a tone arm place, they'd be like, wow, this is a $300 tone arm. I'm going to charge you $150. When no, it should be a cheap job. It should be like a $50 repair job at most. But because it's such a nice tone arm, they'd rip me off. But here we got a Vikings soundtrack. I like the theme song to Vikings, so I snagged it because it's a color. I like colored vinyls. Limited edition, 180 gram. And it's colored. I don't know what color it is, but, you know, I'm a fan of the Vikings show. Vikings. Oh, actually, according to Ancestry.whatever, I'm related to Ragnar. Ragnar's last name is Ragnar Sigurdsson. Ragnar Sigurdsson. Sigurdsson is his last name because his dad's name was Sigurd. And Ragnar, one of Ragnar's sons, was named Sigurd. And Sigurd, his son's last name is Sigurd Ragnarsson because his dad's name is Ragnar. That's how they did it in Viking way. They still do that to this day in Iceland. So people's last names, son for sons and daughter for daughter. And a very cool system. So it's easy to track genealogy. But supposedly I'm 1/1,000,000th related to the guy distantly. So here's the Shining soundtrack. Ooh, it was hard to get this one. It was hard to find it. I staked out looking for this one for like a year straight. And I got a promotional copy of all things. So that's pretty cool. Got a promotional copy that they would send to like the DJs, the radio companies. And I can't see them playing this too often unless they're a classical music station. But classical stations are going to play this because it's a guy who Kubrick had an amazing taste. And the guy who did the music for The Shining, he used like saws, literally like saws, and different array of metal things that he invented himself. Very awesome ambient music that you're not going to hear anywhere else because he made the instruments himself probably a lot of the times. And he's like using a violin strummer on a freaking metal blade or something. Very weird, cool, creepy sound effects. One of my favorite soundtracks. When Jack Torrance is walking into the Golden Ball, I believe it is, with the bar for the first time, he sees the ghost at the bartender. That music when he's walking in, that's my favorite song on this entire soundtrack, so I had to get it. It's a very cool movie. And here's the last one on this pile. It's Legend. All right. I got the Legend movie soundtrack. I have a lot of movie soundtracks for some reason. And, I watched this. I was like, you know what? I like that soundtrack. It is by Tangerine Dream. And I'm a big fan of Tangerine Dream. So I like the soundtrack. It's Tom Cruise and the girl from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And she sees a unicorn and she touches it or whatever. And then the devil wants to make her a slave or something, whatever. Interesting movie. It's a pretty cool movie. It's an old one. Pretty cool. Definitely underrated soundtrack. It took a while to even find this. Anything Tangerine Dream is actually pretty popular in vinyl. All right. But I can still tell a couple ghost stories. How many hours are we on? What are we in here? What is our... I'm sure there's something. Okay, what do we got here? I can't see how many hours it's been. Dang it. All right. So I could take off the helmet. It's wow, it's hard to see, it's hard to hear. But with this Halloween live stream, I'll talk about ghost hunters, ghost adventures. I mean, and I'll tell a ghost story. I'll tell one ghost story, a pretty scary one. But just to recap the review, Zach Bagans built up for like 2 months. The opening of the Dybbuk box event. Will I open it? Will I not? Kind of foiled by a rabbi who claimed he was an expert at Dybbuk boxes, claimed he could seal it. When he gets there, they're all ready to go. They're all set up. Everyone's in place. And Zach's going to talk to the rabbi and then go in and they're going to do the session. And then they're going to ask the rabbi, if they open it, to seal it back up. And the rabbi says that he basically doesn't believe there's a spirit attached to the box. And it's no big deal. And do what you got to do. And I don't know much about Dybbuk boxes. I just searched it on Google today. Very strange. So maybe he got cold feet. Maybe he got switched. Maybe the original rabbi got cold feet. You know, I don't know. Maybe the rabbi was a skeptic. Maybe getting there freaked him out so much that he went off on claiming he didn't know anything about Dybbuk boxes. You know, some people's personality can change when they're actually confronted with a real spirit. I can tell you this. You can't really know how you're going to react to a ghost until it happens. You can pretend you're going to be a tough guy in advance, but when it happens, it's such a strange thing that it depends. It depends. If it's a loved one, it might be a touching moment. But if it's a freaking demon, it might touch you in a different way and scare the crap out of you for the rest of your life. I have flashbacks of when I was poltergeist haunted in the year 2011. But residually, I bought a bunch of ghost hunting equipment starting this year because I wanted to capture something on camera. For the same reason Zach Bagans said he saw a ghost once. Now he wants to prove it with cameras and equipment. And I'm the same way. 2011, something happened to me. I didn't film any of it. I didn't film because it was such a dreadful environment. When a freaking demon knocks over stuff in your room, it's not a happy, fun thing, especially if it's the first time it happened. The first time it happened, I was caught off guard. And I can remember what I was thinking 1 week into the 6-month poltergeist haunting. I lived in a particularly active room, very active. I didn't film any of it. I had a camera on a tripod in the corner of the room. The demon spirit, in my opinion, it was a demon. And probably 2 demons, because I have evidence, according to just anecdotal from your perspective, but from my perspective, 2. But this poltergeist demon, or demons plural, knocked over my camera that was sitting on a tripod for easily a month, well, maybe 3 weeks. It was sitting in that corner for 3 weeks, approximately. This would have been the first time it showcased its corner of room abilities to I would say, a territorial extent. It knocked over the camera knocked over a stack of my DVDs, and the DVDs went all over the floor. It was only like 10 DVDs at most. It was a very small DVD collection I brought with me to this city of Santa Maria, California. I have many videos on the subject, many videos. Do you think Zach is a bit of a charlatan, TV personality, P.T. Barnum for the supernatural to an extent? I'll get back to my poltergeist story, but that's a good question. I think Zach did see a ghost originally. And I think the older Ghost Adventures episodes are a little bit more raw. And the new ones, they got the formula down so down pat that it almost comes off as fully scripted. It's just a wheel that they have oiled, and it's so smooth, everything looks fake from the perspective of a skeptic. And they definitely over dramatize what they're feeling. So, like, for example, let's say they're at a place for a 24-hour lockdown, maybe a 10-hour lockdown, and they film one EVP and one creak in the corner of the room. And they got nothing. But they felt creeped out when they were there. They have the formula so perfected that they exaggerate their feelings. It doesn't mean that they're not feeling creeped out. But they know for footage-wise, they have to get, I'm creeped out, man. What was that? They have to over-exaggerate a little bit for camera effect, most definitely. I don't exaggerate in my investigations. I'm just a lowly YouTuber, but I get there. If I got something, I got something. If I didn't, I didn't. And if I didn't, I don't even upload it. I probably have 10 investigations I have not uploaded because it's me going someplace, getting nothing except maybe a 1.0 spike, and that's it. It's not worth uploading. People aren't going to care. It does seem a bit over the top, rolling on the floor, getting possessed every episode. Rolling on the floor. Okay, if you haven't seen this episode, you got to find it and get it. It's called Deadly Possessions, the Annabelle episode. Annabelle, you know, I think they even put it into a special. Annabelle's Toy Box or something to that effect. It's a Deadly Possessions special episode about Annabelle, the most famous haunted doll, which Zach does not own. He wishes he owned it, but he doesn't own it. But he gets permission from the current owner to take it to the haunted museum. And the guy is wearing gloves, and he has holy water, and he has crosses, and he has a cross, and he's like throwing holy water. He's like, don't touch it. He said, I only have one rule. Don't touch it, period. And Zach Bagans touches that doll at least twice, very grabbingly, very on purpose, because Zach almost wanted to be possessed by it. So Zach could steal the ghost and then give him back the doll and keep the ghost in the haunted museum type situation. It's very strange, very bizarre. But when you said rolling around on the floor, he touches the doll's leg, and then he rolls around on the floor like a cat with catnip. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life. He's literally rolling around in some type of utopia, some type of LSD trip. It's very bizarre. It's hilarious. It looks real. If it's acting, he's acting crazy. It's very strange. So he almost gets a high off of potentially being possessed. He definitely challenges himself and isn't scared of any object and will buy any object and try to get possessed. And then when he's pulled out of his bed because he has a skull he just bought on his shelf, it'll freak him out. But he put that skull back in the museum. So that happened to him, according to him once. Well, my story, I didn't film it. And let me tell you why I didn't film it. For 5.5 months, I rounded up to 6 months, but it was actually 5.5 months. I rented a room on Craigslist. It was $400. It was in Santa Maria, California. And it wasn't the first house I lived in. It was the third house I lived in Santa Maria. And then I lived in a fourth house for a brief few months, like 2 months, and then I moved out, and I never moved back. But the Craigslist $400 house, the landlady, she was kind of mean, but it was the cheapest place I could find. Two weeks, the first 2 weeks, nothing. I didn't notice anything. So that cliche is just like the movies. You know how they move into a house in the movies in a horror movie, and nothing happens. Nobody notices, and there's a happy scene of the family doing something happy. Well, the first 2 weeks, nothing. I didn't notice any zip. I moved in. Someone helped me move my bed in, my bed frame. I had one chair. I bought 3 tables at Goodwill, and I had a couple boxes. And 2 weeks in, violent. Now, it wasn't super violent, and there was zero levitation, which I find interesting because I think levitation is a little bit rare. I think that these demon poltergeists could have levitated, but they chose not to. They knocked over stuff almost like a monkey would be knocking stuff like this, just randomly walking around the room going like this, but I couldn't see it. It was optically invisible. But it had the height and weight. Okay, 6 months into it, it jumped on top of me and grabbed my throat, grabbed my tongue, grabbed my mouth. So it grabbed 3 parts of, it grabbed almost with 3 hands. That's one of the reasons why I think it was 2 entities, unless it was a demon with 3 freaking hands. When it grabbed me, it was a good 2-minute struggle, and I wasn't sleep paralysis. This is what happened. I turned off the light after watching a movie, 15 minutes of a movie. And I have actually the soundtrack of that movie over there in my record collection. It's called From Beyond. It is a corny 80s movie, horror movie, based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. Totally fictional. It's almost comical of a movie. I guess if you're by yourself with a freaking poltergeist, it would be scary. But at this point, I was already 6 months into the poltergeist. No, it wasn't 6 months. 3 months in. So I was 3 months into it. It was about halfway. I noticed it was about halfway. 3 months into it, the poltergeist is sitting. I hear creaks, and it basically watched the movie with me. So the poltergeist is freaking watching this horror movie with me. After 15 minutes, I turn it off. It's on my laptop. I turn it off. And then I turn off the light, and I put my head on the pillow, or do I? I think my head was this close to hitting the pillow when it jumped on top of me. Grabbed my throat, my mouth, and my tongue, and its hands were invisible. Couldn't see them, but I could feel them. They felt like... It felt like electricity, almost numbing. It felt like what spirits feel like. I feel spirits walk through me occasionally, but it was more solidified. And it's hard to explain. It's just an electrical being holding your mouth shut. And I did do this. And I did do this. And my hands went straight through the entity. And I did feel a weight on my chest. And I think I felt a weight on my upper legs. So that's how I get the size of the thing. I think the thing was about 3 feet tall, maybe 3.5 feet tall, just like a gray freaking alien. So that's one of the reasons I think gray aliens are more likely spirits. But for about 1.5, it was about 1 to 2 minutes. 1 to 2 minutes, this happened to me. I struggled. I moved. It wasn't sleep paralysis because I never went to sleep. I didn't even put my head on the pillow. My head was this close to hitting the pillow. I just turned off the light 10 seconds prior, and I could move my whole body. I could move my legs. I could move my arms. I could move everything. It was cutting off my breathing except for my nose. So I could breathe through my nose. And theoretically speaking, I would have been able to do this for hours. And it felt like a kid. It felt like the hands of a kid, but a kid doing its strongest. So even though the grip was as strong as it could, I could still breathe, but I couldn't talk because it held my tongue down inside of my mouth. I think these entities can put their hands through anything. It put its hand through my mouth as my mouth's already closed and put my tongue down and my mouth. So it was scared of me being able to talk. So I think humans definitely have power in speech. In what you say has power. I called on the name of God. generally speaking, in my mind for a good 2 minutes straight until I could barely talk. We're talking, at one point, I was talking like this. I was trying to talk and I couldn't. But when I finally could talk, it left the room. And when it left the room, very obviously, but it always came back 1 hour later. That's the problem with this demon poltergeist. It was 5.5 months. I did kick it out of my room. I would get up and say, in the name of God, get out of here. I tried the name of Jesus, get out of here. I think if I tried the name of Buddha, it might have done the same thing. I never tried that, though. But it always came back 1 hour later. So it acted like a lawyer that had authority to be there. Very crappy, very scummy entity. But I think it was assigned to me from a different entity that from a previous house. I had one singular encounter that lasted a couple minutes. 6 months prior, I know there's 6 months gets repeated, but 6 months prior to this event, and I recorded it on a calendar, close to the corner of a room, a negative entity made itself known to me and it walked through me. And this was a very brief encounter. It was my first encounter ever with a demon on any noticeable level. I do have the ability to feel spirits walk through me, though. So I have felt spirits walk through me before that happened. So I did have an understanding of what it feels like when an energy being walks through you. And this happened in 2010. So in 2010, actually, I figured out the date. After looking at private messages with someone on Facebook, of all things, a couple months ago, I downloaded all my Facebook data. And I've been searching for this date for years. And I know that I private messaged someone like the next day. And I happened to have seen that person hours before the demon showed up. So I do associate the demon with that person to an extent. And I finally found that message and matched up. It was February 17th, 2010. Okay, so now that I'm thinking about it, I'm doing the math. 6 months later wouldn't have been 2011, would it? Wow. So I've been saying the 6 month thing for a long time. So it was a little bit more than 6 months prior. Wow. Okay. You know, when you suppress stuff like this, you don't ponder on it. For a good 2 years, I didn't talk about it except for a few relatives who immediately shunned me. They're like, you're crazy. You're a psycho. And that's what greatly caused me to not talk about it. And then I talked to a religious figure, and this religious guy said, don't talk about it. And I was like, you should empathize a little bit. This is a spiritual subject. And he's like, don't talk about it. And it made me want to talk about it so much that I started talking about it on YouTube. I would have to say that one religious guy that said, don't talk about it, I don't think he believed me. He had no respect for me. And he thought I was making it up. He thought I was a liar. And yes, making a YouTube channel almost looks like it's for attention, but it's 0% attention. I'm writing a book that I hope will tell future generations what a poltergeist encounter is like, because I think it's rare enough where there should be every single witness should write something. If every single witness writes something, we can actually collect some data and get some answers on the subject, because I've read a good 5 books mentioning poltergeist activity, and most of them are from scientists that debunk the subject or know nothing about the subject. They're reading an anecdotal story and they're almost responding to it in a I don't know. From my perspective, it's disrespectful. They think it's of the mind. They see it psychokinesis. I don't have psychokinesis. I can't move objects with my mind. And psychokinesis is a scam. It doesn't exist. You can search YouTube videos all day, and there's those people that say they can move the tinfoil on the needle, but that's just their breath moving it. That's just their nose. That's just the air currents. Psychokinesis to any huge extent with poltergeist activity, this freaking spirits walked through me. They grabbed my throat. I didn't grab my own throat. I didn't walk through myself. Those were legitimate spirits external to myself. I think personally only a self-centered, some type of the universe revolves around me, egomaniac type personality would think, yeah, I have psychokinesis. I can move objects. Not me. I know he was an external entity. But yeah, that's actually an interesting quote by Crowley. Today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Trust me, a lot of family members don't like me anymore because I had an encounter with spirits and I talk about it. But I don't talk about it at family gatherings anymore. I stopped that long ago. I figured out, this creeps everyone out. I'll just keep my mouth shut. And strangely, none of my close family relatives have approached me and said, "Oh, can you tell me more about that?" None of them have. So a lot of them dismiss me. I'm not crazy. I don't take any drugs. I don't take any prescriptions. I'm not under any delusions. I'm a very rational minded, critical thinker. I believe in Occam's razor to an extent where the most rational conclusion is most likely what happened. But I think there's an opposite to Occam's razor, and I want to write about it. I want to invent. If there already is, let me know. Maybe someone has already made it up, but I think there's an opposite to Occam's razor, like I don't know, the spirit's edge. I don't know what you're going to call it, but some type of spiritual aspect where spirits exist, even though scientists will say rationally that's impossible. Some people are more sensitive, and then that gets in the realm of the 1-900 psychic scams. And so it's really hard to convince the skeptic. I've tweeted atheists such as Penn Jillette. I tweeted Penn Jillette. I said, I know for a fact spirits exist. And he said, your definition of the word fact is different than mine. And he doesn't know until he's dead. When he's dead and he is a spirit, that's when he'll know. So a lot of people are so diehard set in their beliefs that they have to literally be entering the afterlife before they believe it. And so be it. That's how it's going to be. I don't push any dogma on anybody. What I experienced isn't something I read. I rented a freaking haunted room, but now that I realize the year prior, it wasn't 6 months, man. So I'm going to have to do better math because I only found out the February 17th date a couple months ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. But this event happened back in 2011. So we're talking, I'm bad at math, 7 years ago. That was a long time ago. So, yeah. Guess what, dude? No mentioning of the N word. Your message just got blocked. There are definitely spirits of all types, but there's no racism on this channel. All right. This is a channel that's open to any religion, any race, positivity and love towards all beings. And I do frequently get comments, no matter where it is. Twitter, email, YouTube comments are the worst. YouTube comments are worse than even I realize. I was at the Comedy Store, a place with comedians that are very raunchy and they're very dirty and they like to tell jokes that are as dirty as it gets. And like we're talking at 12 a.m., some random comedian I've never heard of, and I don't even remember the joke. I wish I remembered the joke. But in the joke, he said, or maybe this is the punchline. He said, meaner than YouTube comments. And I was like, meaner than YouTube comments. Because YouTube comments are notoriously extremely cruel and extremely mean, especially from anonymous people using pseudonyms. When you put that mask on and you're anonymous, it becomes a sickness. So you guy that want to spread the N-word, unless you're reciting a Tupac rap poetry from one of the greats like Notorious B.I.G., I'm not interested in spreading negativity. Yeah. You just got blocked and banned, dude, because you're a troll. Even your comment is fake. I can't respond to your fake comment because you're fake. You're just putting out fake information. You're pretending that you're full of that type of hate because you want to associate perhaps this channel. It's hard to say. But Zach Bagans, and trust me, negativity can swarm not only physical, but spiritual and digital online. Yeah, YouTube's a pretty bad cesspool sometimes. So it's too bad. Yeah, TMZ website. I mean, so if you see someone blatantly saying stuff like that, just interesting. Nope, I don't have those things. I'm just looking through comments that got blocked. See, all of your comments got like auto blocked. So anyway, spirits are real, demons are real. I can prove it. There's a house built in the 1830s. It has a plaque on it. It says 1830. And it's a historic monument. It says historically turned into a monument in 1950. And there's a ghost that lives at that location, or a spirit, or a demon, or a nature spirit. The identity of the thing, I don't know. I have no clue what the thing is. See, I don't claim to be a psychic that gets messages to my brain. And I think some people do psychically get messages to their brain. But I think some people can be manipulated. Zach Bagans said in the Ghost Adventures live stream, he said, these spirits can manipulate your emotions and almost try to puppeteer and steer you into doing something or going somewhere. Likewise, people that get messages straight to their brain, they're getting it if it's real, if it's not fake. And I obviously agree there's a lot of fakes out there. But the small few psychics that are actually authentic, they can't see the thing. It's invisible. And those that claim they can see it, I would be very skeptical. I would say, what does it look like? Does it always look like that? And it could be a mental issue. It could be a projection of what they think it looks like. It could be a shapeshifter. I'm not big into shapeshifting. I don't believe in shapeshifting aliens. I don't believe the Queen of England is an alien or a lizard person or anything like that. I'm talking about spiritual. Spirits are very spiritual. And what I mean is spirits are very malleable, is what I meant to say. And they're not a solid, obviously. They're just energy. So they can change shape. They can change form, like a costume, like a Halloween costume. And I think to scare people off, they can dress up like this, cliche-wise. They can have horns and hooves. But I don't think that's their real form. I don't think that's their real shape. Yeah. I wonder if people with lower vibrations are more susceptible to being influenced by negative spirits Alias One says, I agree. That's a good comment. You know, a lot of people have theories on the different dimensions. My theory is demons are so low that they're really close to us dimensionally, which is why if you have an interaction with a spirit on a Ouija board or a ghost detecting piece of equipment, it's not going to be Marilyn Monroe. It's going to be a freaking demon. Whether you're asking for Marilyn Monroe or some other famous figure, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the demon that's wandering right next to you. And if you're a lower vibrational frequency, that demon can see it and know it. When demons walk through people, they can immediately get that information of the vibration of their spirit, would be my guess. It's just a guess. I don't know. It's logic. Obviously, you got to just think logically on these unknown subjects. But I think some people are immune to demonic puppeteering, to demonic influence. And just today, and we're talking almost every day, I see at least one guy on the freeway or one guy on the road, that one guy that's zipping in and out of traffic. We're talking 2 years ago. This one guy was zipping in and out of traffic. Maybe he's on drugs. Maybe he's drunk. Who knows? Maybe he's in a big hurry and he just has to get somewhere. But he was passing people in the middle lane, which was all blocked out. And he was passing people in the other lane where it's like 10 solid lines. And he almost killed me. And he passed me. And then I was right behind him. And he slammed on his brakes. We're talking everyone's going 60 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour at the lowest. And I was going 50 and he slams on his brakes and he almost killed me. And then he did it again and then he did it again. I took a picture of his license because I had time, because when he slammed, I had time to do it on my phone, you know. And I've never seen him again. Never seen him since. But someone like that has road rage, and someone with that much road rage is likely super influenced, if not full-blown possessed by a demon. Whether you believe that's true or not, I think that's a small example. He definitely tried to get me to back end in his car at least 2 times. Luckily, my brakes work. Yeah, I did let him go. He was in front of me. I was going to let him go, and I was actually driving slow. But people with higher vibrational, you know, I would say test that out for yourself. Do what you think a higher vibrational being would do, and then test it out. Some people claim it's eating this type of food. I guess it's personal for everyone, you know. Some people are going to say it's meditation. Some people are going to say it's just being a better person, being a good person. I try to strictly tell the truth and never lie. I know that's tough as a human being. Definitely every human is tempted to lie, but the older I get, the less I'm inclined to even be tempted for that. There's no point lying. Lying is a huge cycle of waste of time. It wastes so much time. So any opportunity I have to brag, at least in person, if anyone asks me something, I say, nope, I'm a low wage paid nobody. Doesn't matter. Who cares? So I don't know. I try to walk in nature, and I think nature spirits exist. As far as this 1820s house I was talking about, I've been there on 3 nights. All 3 nights, it set off my ghost detecting equipment. This is static fields, a very simple static field. You put it up, static field, the static field is broken, a light goes off. Very simple device. All 3 times, similar devices. I use different devices on different times. All of them have been set off intelligently. I ask with a camera, can you set this off? It sets it off. So I have the camera footage. I'm turning it into a documentary. It's going to be a YouTube documentary. It's going to be free. Pirate House, 1830s House is what I call it. That's just a working title. I'm going to try to give it something different title than that. Haunted land, latitude, longitude, grids, ley lines. You think demons are closer or linger at these demonic hotspots? Well, I live in Santa Maria, California, and I think, personally speaking, I know I don't like to brag, and this is not a brag. Trust me. I wish I'd never had a single demon encounter in my life. When I was a little kid, sure, I believed in the concept of demons, but I didn't know how literally real they were. Okay. I heard about them from Sunday school. I was like, doesn't matter to me. It's not a piece of candy. It's not a cartoon. I'm not too concerned with it. And then in 2010, I met this guy. Now, he didn't look like this. The demon I met in 2010 was optically 100% invisible. The lights were off. It was approximately 11 p.m. And the encounter lasted from, to be honest, I think it was closer to 11:04 p.m., 11:03 p.m. Because after the encounter, I immediately grabbed my phone. I was awake during the entire encounter. I was waiting for a text from someone during the entire encounter. So I had my phone on my bed. I still have this cell phone in my room. I still have it. I have these tiny things as just reminders that it happened. It's real. And I looked at my phone, and I think my phone said 11:14 after it happened. So if it started 11:04 to 11:14, approximately 10 minutes, I guess. But he was spaced out. And I can't tell the full story. Sorry, because it's one of those stories that the guy didn't look like this. But I think he was the mayor, if you will, of Santa Maria. Not the human mayor. Not a ghost of a human. Not the ghost of a dead guy. But the freaking demonic mayor who resides over the city of Santa Maria on the spiritual plane of the 5th dimension. I don't know why he chose to appear to me. I have some clues, though. I have some ideas. And I'm going to talk about that in the future. I'll share that. But when I share it, I want it to be complete, and I want to write it, and I want it to be in print, because YouTube is a place full of a lot of garbage, a lot of nonsense conspiracies. I don't want this story to be associated with YouTube and YouTubers. I don't want it to be associated with the million flat earth bullcrap videos and the million hoaxers that fake stuff, because it actually happened to me and it means a lot to me. So I can't tell the full story because personally it's too sacred to me, but it's not too sacred to write and have it written. And after it's written, I'll open it up and I'll read it for free. And I'll close it. I'll say, here it is. When I'm dead, there's a record of what happened. There it is. I'm going to be dead. But there's something of what happened to me. One of the most important encounters with a negative entity, a teaching lesson, a learning lesson. And I am going to make a video and fully tell the full story A to Z. So it was about a 10-minute encounter, but there were pauses in between, spaces in between. The first time I ever was introduced to that world, and ever since 2010, occasionally here and there, a demon will show up, even in my room, not optically, fully invisible, will step on stuff on my floor. I can hear its footsteps, and sometimes it touches objects in my room. Last night, I heard 4 creaks, pretty prominent. I had a stack of albums in this corner, and I heard not 4 of the same creak. I heard One of them might have been on that table, and the other 3 were in this corner. And it clearly sounded like, not like that, almost an internal creak, but I did hear at least one of these. And that's impossible unless an entity did it, but I have a pretty good sense of when entities do stuff. And I think that spirit was preparing for this live stream. Spirits have the ability to see into the future to an extent. I think that spirit was hoping I would get my ghost detecting equipment. I have thousands of dollars of ghost detecting equipment. I can show some of it, I guess. Here's some of it. I think the spirit was hoping I would do a freaking seance and turn on this crap so it could harass me. See, the second you turn on this stuff in your room, you open your room up for the thing to have legal reason to be there. But I don't want the thing here. I don't want it bothering me. I use this simple Sony Handycam because it has good night vision. And I use this Paranologies. It's just a static meter. Very simple, but it works. And I use these smaller Paranologies static detectors. They work. They're very simple. And the spirit at the 1830s house set them off right after I said, if you set these off, I'll take off. I'm going to Los Angeles. And it set them all off. And not only did it set them all off, but it went like this. And then it went like then it went like something like that. It set them all off once. So systematically that, to be honest, it would be 100% impossible for me to reproduce that or fake that. Then Gary Galka, you saw Gary on Ghost Adventures tonight. He is the EVP expert. He was getting the EVPs. He's the inventor of the Mel meter. And I have 2 of my favorite style of Mel meters. This is the top of the line one, the best one they make. The Mel 870R REM EMTSDD, which has everything. The REM pod antenna, very important because this detects static electricity, a field being broken. And then, of course, I'm not going to turn it on because I don't turn ghost hunting equipment in my room on anymore. Last time I did, I had an experiment in the corner of my room for my theory that spirits are attracted to corners. It's a theory that many believe in after being bombarded by people tipping me off by the many hundreds of years of people believing in it, but I didn't know. But my 2011 encounters, I found that out because the spirits would enter in the corner of the room. But I had corners of rooms experiments on the earliest Mysterialis episodes put up this year. And the freaking spirit that set off my REM pod, I have a REM pod around here somewhere, it hung out. This spirit would come back not 1 hour later, like the spirits in 2011, but this spirit would come back once a week, maybe twice a week. It would walk around my room, touch my stuff. It acted like a dog that followed me home. And I was like, no thanks, I'm not interested. Get out of here. And it hasn't been back in a number of months. And I'm glad it hasn't. And I hope that thing last night wasn't it. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I do get random visitors. And because they're invisible, because I'm not psychic, I don't get psychic messages. There's no way for me to know what it is and who it is and the identity. An owl? Oh, yeah. Right after the spirit set off this or one of these, at the 1830s house, an owl screeched so terrifyingly loud that the owl was clearly reacting to something, almost scared, unless that's a mating call that I'm not aware of. I'm not an owl expert, but that was a freaking loud screech, and I got it as I was filming this. I got the loudest screech. I thought it was the ghost manifesting a voice or something. It freaked me out so badly. I don't know if the owl could see the ghost, was just reacting to me, because obviously owls have night vision. But there was a farmer or someone driving towards me. The owl could have been warning me of or just reacting to a truck in the distance driving up. So I immediately grabbed all the stuff and ran. And luckily, whoever that guy in the truck or tractor was didn't see me. But after that owl screeched, I did start looking around. That's when I saw the lights coming through the trees. So that owl definitely did tip me off. Oops. Dropped one of my millimeters. I specifically got antenna ones because this is the REM pod inside of the millimeter. It's like a 2-in-1 deal. And sometimes ghosts set this off more than anything. And this is the EMF. Electromagnetic field is a little bit different than the static electricity field. And I think spirits phase in and out of dimensions or manifest and materialize in and out. And when they do, they can affect this and not this, or this and not this. And when they do both, that's a lot of proof and a lot of evidence. That's why I like to have both. So wonder why the corners. I pondered wonder why the corners for like 6 years straight. Every single day, the spirits in 2011 entered the corner of my room. How do I know? Because I lived in a poltergeist room. I would hear extreme creaks in the corner. It did sound like foundation creaks, but really exaggerated foundation creaks. Perhaps the type of foundation creaks you would hear during an earthquake. Just really creak, creak, creak. I can't reproduce it. Bad example. But then after the creaks, objects would knock over my room, and the spirit would walk through my freaking body before I went to sleep, or while I would go to sleep, and they'd walk through my body. The spirit would just walk through me, almost judging and gauging where I'm at. Maybe it's legal reason. I don't know. But objects would knock over for an hour straight. Now, when I say an hour straight, it was 10 to 20 objects a night. So it was spaced out. Like something would get knocked over and then 10 minutes of nothing. Maybe something and then maybe an hour of nothing. And then stomping on something. So it was spaced out. But sometimes it was 3 objects back to back. I do wish I filmed some of it. And the number one reason I didn't is because it knocked over my camera, almost begging me to film it. And even before that happened, I contemplated over and over. No one's going to believe me. I was familiar with YouTube at the time. I had a YouTube channel called Hoax Hunter. You can see even this channel is youtube.com/hoaxhunter. I busted time travel hoaxers on forums saying, I'm a time traveler. I was like, no, you're not. So that's the only thing I really did. I didn't have anything to do with spirits. But from my perspective, it was a demon in my room wanting a contract. And the contract was this. We'll knock over stuff on camera for you, for your soul. We'll knock over stuff on camera for you, for your eternal soul. And I was like, I'm good. No, I don't want evidence of poltergeists. Even though the eternal soul thing is probably an exaggeration and something I heard in Sunday school and maybe something that doesn't exist. Even if there's a 1% chance that it does exist, it was enough to scare me away to not want to film it because it was legitimate demons in my room terrorizing me on a nightly basis. I went to work 1 hour late once because I got virtually zero sleep. So one of their goals was to keep me up all night. On the night that I got zero sleep, I cast it out of my room. I said, get out of here. I would stand up and say, get out. And he would leave. It would always come back 1 hour later. And then I casted it out again. Came back 1 hour later. Cast it out again. And I think 5 times was my limit. And if you do the math, that's all night and up until the morning. About 5:30, I don't know. I don't know if it was 5:30, but maybe 5 a.m. was when it stopped, approximately 5 a.m. I would get home around 5, so 5 to 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. was the time frame it did stuff. I don't remember it ever doing anything on my days off on Saturday and Sunday during the time of 5 a.m. between then to 5 p.m. Only 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. So there's definitely some type of window. Definitely some type of, I don't believe in astrology. I don't believe in looking at the stars and gauging this and that. But ancient astrology has a lot to do with the cycles and spirits being obsessed with, this is my cycle. This is my month. This is my day. This is my week. This is my hour. And a lot of people believe in stuff like that. I necessarily didn't. But when I noticed the 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. harassment, clearly the night is their favorite cycle. The veil is the thinnest, whatever the case. But it's almost like a clockwork. Dimensional gateway is granted access during that time frame. I don't know how it works. I have no idea. Yeah, they say babies can see spirits, cats and dogs as well. Usually a wall or hallway or corners. Robert says that. And there's a video of a baby that supposedly can see a ghost. My cat, rest in peace, passed away a while ago. But my cat would stare at the wall, would stare at the corner, and her eyes would get all big. And she like stare at it for like 5 minutes straight. And then she'd get bored. She'd be like, no big deal. So I don't know. I think some animals are so used to spirits that it's like normal. That they're like, that's just a spirit. Because if you have seen spirits your whole life, it's so normal. You're not going to be freaked out by it, really, I think, I definitely do not see spirits, except for shadow people a couple times, and except for potentially Gus the ghost. I don't know if it was Gus, but I saw a dark figure, which looked like a human being, in my peripheral. And I turned, and he was gone. And I turned back, and he was there again, and I turned, and he was gone. So that's the most solid spirit I've ever seen. Peripheral. When you look at it front on, you can't see it. And every single shadow person I've ever seen, and I've only seen a handful. We're talking maybe 4 times, really vaguely here and there. And it's always the corner of my eye. And they're always running. But at the Comedy Store, he wasn't running. He was standing. So that's a little bit unique. And I'm sure people aren't going to believe that. But check out my last video if you want to see that story. Thank you, Seamus Ryder. I appreciate the positive comments. Happy Halloween. This is a awesome Halloween. Hope everyone a safe Halloween. I don't have everything. I can answer any questions if you got any questions. I guess Brandon's too tired to join. That's no big deal. If you're too tired, I mean, it's 11:22 p.m. my time. I have no idea what it is your time, so that's no big deal. Okay. So I know this is extremely long. It's gone on forever. I don't even have a timer, so I don't know how long it's gone. Yeah. I have a theory about angels and demons, and I formulated this theory. And let's face it, it's theoretically possible a freaking spirit told me this info, but I don't think so. And definitely I used a little bit of rationale and reason, but it's rationale and reason after seeing demons move objects. It doesn't matter that I couldn't see the demon. The object was moved, and I had to pick up that object and put it back. Sometimes my pencil holder was knocked over, and some of the pencils would roll out. I had to pick those up and put it back. It actually happened. It's a reality. It would have been cool if I filmed it, but even even 2 weeks into my encounters, knowing how YouTube works, 2 weeks in, and bottles of water, it would knock over pretty regularly, as long as it wasn't a full bottle of water. So if it was half full, it would definitely try to knock it over and mostly succeed. But I thought to myself, oh, I could film that bottle of water. They love knocking over bottles of water. Eventually, it'll go for it. And then I thought to myself, okay, so I film with this. I didn't have this camera at the time. I had a, we're talking probably made in 2008, obsolete Sony camera that I think had a 30-minute maximum film time. And so, like I said, it would knock something over and maybe 1 hour later knock something over again pretty randomly. If I put something up in the corner of the room, put a bottle of water in the corner of the room, I'm fairly confident it would have eventually knocked it over. But I would have to continually delete and re-record over and over and over. And then I already saw the comments on YouTube in my mind. That's fake, dude. F you. That's so fake. I can see the string. I already projected those comments. I thought and thought and thought. This is after talking to a few people and people not believing me. So I was like, oh, do I open up a demonic contract with a demon for 100 views and 10 people saying it's fake? No, I'm good. No video, no recording. And I literally thought about the movie War Games. Very corny reference, very corny. Seems like it makes no sense. There's demons in my room knocking over stuff, and I'm thinking about War Games because there's no advice, there's no one I can turn to. People either reject it, or if they believe it, they're kind of scared. They don't want to delve into it. But the movie War Games, the only way to win is to not play. So the only way I could beat these demons at this temptation to record them and then upload it, and then people call me a fraud. And then the demons laugh, and then people laugh at me, and it's just a big joke, is if I don't record it at all. And I understand talking about it might be falling into the trap a little bit here and there, but hey, Brandon, how long ago did you join?
I just joined. I didn't know you sent me the link, so thanks.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. What if I had you there for like an hour and I didn't know? No,
I wouldn't mind.
No, I did send you the link at the beginning. We're talking like 100 hours ago.
Oh, man. Well, I had to talk to my girlfriend. My girlfriend's flying in from Santa Barbara tomorrow.
Okay,
we just decided today that she'd fly in, and we're going to have a getaway. So pretty cool. Wow. I'm excited. I'm obviously dressed up. It's funny, we were both wearing orange jackets.
Yeah.
I love the look, but I'm Harry Potter's the easiest costume for me because I have the Elder Wand, which is a very cool wand from Universal Studios.
Oh, cool.
With the Phoenix, it's the one that if you follow Harry Potter, which I love, it is the very coveted power wand.
Dang,
so anyway,
that's like one of a kind. Like no one could have that. That's like impossible to have.
Yeah, no one can get these. This is like really rare. No one. It's pretty cool.
I think I have one. Let me go get it.
Do you really? Yeah. The cool one is the Sirius Black is a cool one. It's like, and then the Bellatrix one is really cool. You can get them in sets too. but I just have this one. My family, my brother, I think, has the Sirius black one. It's like this very smooth silver with these runes in it. It's really cool. So they're all different. They have like different weights and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty authentic. Yeah, no one has these. Oh wow, there it is. Which one? Cool, you found it.
There's cobwebs on it. There's cobwebs.
Oh, your white. So your box is brown.
What color's your box?
It's like a gray. It's like a gray.
Oh, wow. Yeah, mine is brown.
Oh, cool.
I went to. Did you go to the wand shop?
Yeah, all vendors. Yeah, I have the bag right here.
Did you go to the wand salesman event, little thingy, whatever it was?
Yeah, the wand picks you. Yeah.
That, you walk in there and like wands pop out and the dude like gets it a volunteer or something. You went to that?
Oh yeah. Well, I went to the one in Orlando. So I don't know. Which one did you go to? You went to California?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it's different. I don't know.
Does yours light up or does it do a magic effect?
No, mine doesn't do that. Does did you get one of those?
Yeah, I got the magic effect.
Oh, you did? Oh man.
Yeah.
Nice.
See, we have the little how to do it.
Oh, cool.
The how to do it is pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Because these are the different locations that you walk up to the window and you can do real magic.
My niece has one. Yeah.
You can do real black magic with the devil. No, just kidding. But no, they're super rare and nobody has them. But I have the exact same one.
Oh, wow.
The exact same one.
That's the same one. Wow.
But
yours is the
mine has this at the end. Does yours have that at the end?
No, that's what activates the thing. No.
Yeah, that's what activates the thing.
Yeah.
But there is one that lights blue. Have you seen that one?
No, I didn't see that one. Really?
So I don't know if this one. Well, I think it's official. Because I think the Tokyo one has the light up blue.
Oh, cool.
And then I looked online and everyone has it now. So you can order it online, the blue light up. You do this and it starts to light with the blue LED. Cool. And it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
because for video, it glows like this big.
Oh, wow.
But that's in person, it's just a regular LED. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You don't have a lightsaber, do you? One of those cool lightsabers?
I mean, I have a green one.
You do?
That I use to scare away. I use it to scare away the javelina. Because occasionally the javelina, these are pigs with tusks. Kind of like a warthog. And sometimes they knock over the trash cans and eat the trash. Yeah. So I get the lightsaber and I scare them away.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's a toy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those javelina, man. I had to look that up. I was like, oh my God, wow. Look at those things, They have they have like mohawks and like these they look like Bebop and Rocksteady, from the Teenage Mutant.
And they smell like a skunk.
Oh, really?
See, I used to think, what, did a skunk die? No, it's javelinas.
Oh, wow. Man, I think, I get the impression, some people get the impression there's like no life in the desert. You know what I mean? It seems so barren, but there's so much life in the desert,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how they live. Yeah. There's tons of stuff here.
Yeah. Anyway. It's cool.
So you're Harry Potter, huh?
Yeah,
you got the thing on your...
It's the easiest thing. It's
just... Yeah, but did you do the thing?
I just get the tie. I put the little mascara or whatever, girlfriend's stuff, and put it like a little thunderbolt. But I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that. It was just handing out candy, very low key this year, Halloween. So I did see some pretty cool costumes, though. It was pretty fun. Salem is going on, not too far from here, actually. So people have been there all week. Like, today there was my friend's there, and he's he took video, and there were people like preaching, these very fundamentalist Christians. And I'm not for or against any religion per se, but they were just saying, it was like, convert to Jesus, follow Jesus, and blah 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 blah, and preaching right in the middle of Salem like that, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know. I don't follow those street preachers too much. I don't really buy into that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that, but it was interesting to see it in Salem. My friend there, my friend, he was like yelling. He's like, he exposes people too. He exposes like people like, you ever hear of a new age guru called Teal Swan?
Yeah.
Okay, so people
She
like
said
that.
she was abused, and when someone says that, you can't say they weren't. You know what I mean? So
right, but but like the fact that she like promotes suicide as hitting like a reset button. Yeah,
well,
she says.
I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe don't use the S word too much.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't know she does that. She has a video on that, or what?
Oh, that's like there's a whole podcast. Very well done podcast.
I think I've watched one of her videos a couple years ago, and that's it. I was like, no thanks.
Yeah, she's in Costa Rica. It's a whole expose. I mean, like and like she tries to get other people to try to plant these memories that never happened to them. So like get people to think that they were abused, and like that way she has to remove these things, and they have to pay her and all this, and it's really
kind of reminds
crazy.
me of it kind of reminds me of Preston Nichols. See, Preston Nichols, speaking of the Montauk we weren't talking about it, but the Montauk projectile, Preston B. Nichols gave me his phone number. He said, give me a call in one of the DMs back in the year 2000. And I'm like, I'm a big fan, but I'm kind of creeped out. So I'm good. No, thanks. And I literally had the phone and his number. And I was like, nah. Because at the time, I was a teenager. And, I didn't think it was normal for a teenager to call some random guy on the internet, even though he's an author of a cool book. And then he did mention that, maybe I'm a Montauk boy, and maybe this guy's a Montauk boy. And he eventually said everyone on the forums is probably a Montauk boy. And then Stuart Swerdlow says he was told that he was a Montauk boy too. Everyone was a Montauk boy? That turns into a weird thing where it's a scam. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A weird scam.
It's
I've never even been on the East Coast. It's impossible for me to have been a Montauk boy. So.
Oh, right. Good point. Yeah. Well, I mean, according to them, they could say like, well, Montauk was connected to MK Ultra, and MK Ultra went out to California, and blah 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 blah. Like
they would just say my memory was wiped, and I need deprogramming.
Yeah,
no, I do not need that. I'm good.
So right. But like no, but you're right. But what's interesting is like you see it in people like Corey Good, who will be like doing the same type of scam. Like if you go along with our narrative, our fantastical, crazy story, and you just go along with it and say you can join, you can be the Montauk boy. We'll let you in. You can do your little side business. Get in on this. You can be a secret space insider. You could be in the secret space program, killing aliens like Battlestar Galactica or whatever, right? Or Starship Troopers.
I read a book called Alternative 3 by Leslie Watkins.
That's a great video.
Published in 1979. And I'm almost positive the term secret space program is not only in the book, but mentioned in the book many, many times.
Right.
But I sold it. Now I'm going to have to rebuy that book and find it just so I can say, hey, 1979. The reason the book is popular is because it says banned. It was never banned. That was a publicity stunt that worked. The book was never banned. The book was a joke. It's based on a fake science report that is almost Stephen Colbert style, just fake reporting. Remember when he had the Stephen Colbert show?
Oh, yeah.
Except it was even more stale because it's British humor. And they said, we went to Mars. Here's a Martian golfer. and they zoom in and there's a gopher, and they claim the gopher's on Mars. And the whole thing was released on April 1st. It was an April Fool's Day joke.
Oh my God.
That, like War of the Worlds, fooled so many people that they turned it into a book, which is now a cult classic, which some ufologists claim is proof that the Russians and the US created a secret space program and brought thousands to secret colonies on Mars. But I read the book, and it reads like a tabloid. It's comical, and it's purposefully comical because not only is it a hoax, it's almost a playful hoax that people with no sense of humor totally ignore the jokes, and they read it too literally. It's fake, and even the authors admit it was an April Fool's Day joke. But to this day, no, it's real. It was banned, but it was never banned. Nobody ever banned it. You can get those banned copies anywhere because it was never banned. So it's pretty funny.
But you're right. Like I don't know if you probably haven't been following Dark Journalist and his recent videos, but he did point out in one of his streams that Alternative 3, the book, as you said, did have secret space program in it. So I think you're right. So I don't have the book, but I think you might be right about that. So
wow. Okay. Well, I bought that book because that book is mentioned in this book.
Oh wow. It is?
I've read this. I've purchased every single book mentioned in this book.
That's
and there aren't too many. There's only like 2 books mentioned in this book.
Really?
Maybe 3. I purchased every single one. There's a book by Percival Lowell mentioned in here about the canals on Mars. I went to the Lowell Observatory and I bought every book in the library.
That's a heavy book, man. That's an older book too by science.
Well, it was a reproduction, so luckily the gift shop had it pretty cheap.
Right? Yeah. No, it's still in print. Yeah, it's a classic.
Mission to Mars, page 95. I just want to find where it says Alternative 3.
Yeah,
so you can
that's
see.
Interesting. I didn't know Montauk referenced Alternative 3, but yeah,
wow,
it talks about the basis.
Talks about Richard C. Hoagland on the first page of the chapter.
Oh, cool.
And here it is at the top of page 2, at page 96. It says right here, Alternative 3 by Leslie Watkins. I don't know if you can see that.
I can't, but maybe people at home can see it.
I don't know if you can see
it. I see it. I see it. I see it.
Yep, there it is.
Alternative 3, Leslie Watkins, right at the very beginning. I bought it
for like $10. And then UFO nuts said, "Oh, this is banned. It's worth $100." And it's not worth $100, but please don't buy it because now I have to buy it. Dang it.
It's a tiny book, isn't it? It's like a paperback.
It's about the exact size of the Necronomicon.
Yeah, something like that. Right.
Yeah. And it's totally fake.
Yeah, I read. Yeah, the Necronomicon or the Alternative 3? Both.
But Alternative 3, it said, "Oh, have you noticed the trend of 30,000 people disappearing?
Huh?
They're in Mars now. They went to Mars, but that news report is fake. So nobody disappeared, except for the regular amount of people. I guess." People do disappear, but they don't go to Mars,
Right. No, no kidding.
Sadly, they go to ditches and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that's a good point. What these things do is distract from the real issues that are going on with, like, human trafficking or whatever, you know what I mean? And people concentrate on that, and I don't know. I see other things like Q being a huge distraction. I think these are like flat Earth, as you said before. These are diabolical things to take our distraction off of, like, the real issues in the world. You know what I mean?
See, Preston B. Nichols passed away. And if anyone's going to contact someone via a device this ridiculous looking, even though it legitimately just makes a static field and these go off when the static field is disrupted, he would. But I don't do seances after someone died. I don't do seances, period.
Listen,
not my style.
Rest in peace, Preston. I didn't. I was supposed to. I was dating a girl that, and I think I told you about this when I first like met you, kind of, and started like talking to you. I said I was like, hey, you know, like this girl knows Preston because I had done an interview with Peter Moon, and I called him.
Was it Chica Bruce?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was just the lady that wasn't the lady's name, but so she was like, you know, I've been up to Preston's place and up in Cairo, New York, or something like that. She's like, you know, it's not that far away. It's like a couple hour drive from here and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know, maybe, you know, check it out. I never, because I didn't know about other than your videos about like the real thing. And she's like, yeah, I brought my boyfriend up there, and you know, you might have to get in your underwear. And I said, what? And so I kind of had second thoughts about it. But I'll say this: she was funny, and she's like, you know what he said to me one time? I was like, what? And he's like, he would come up to me and he'd say, you know, like really serious, like he was 100% serious, and he would say things like, he's like, you know, I know who Jim Morrison's son is. And this lady, her father like was a Warner Brother executive who worked with Prince and everybody and stuff, and she was like, really? So like she's heard stuff like this. So she's like, really, like who's Jim Morrison's son? And this is how you were talking about how Preston was influenced by pop culture and movies, Superman and whatever. Like he put all these things in there, Beatles, whatever. He's like, I know who Jim Morrison's son is. And she's like, who? And he's like, Val Kilmer.
No way. Val Kilmer is not related to Jim Morrison.
He just looked like him in the movie. You know what I mean? It's just so crazy.
Job.
Yeah.
Playing Val Kilmer. I mean, playing Jim Morrison in The Doors. That's a great movie. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. I love that movie.
But it reminds me of The Music of Time. Speaking of Jim Morrison.
Oh, wow.
In Preston's book, The Music of Time, Preston B. Nichols, rest in peace, passed away on, I suppose, the morning of October 5th. And I only know this because of Stuart Swerdlow mentioning it during... See, the title of Stuart's video is Preston Nichols and Montauk Updates, something like that. And, you know, a good number of minutes in, he mentions Preston for 39 seconds in a 24-minute video. I wish he would do an entire video talking about just everyday regular exchanges like you just shared of Preston's life. But all I know about is the few times I chatted with him on the Montauk Project forum in the year 2000 and reading his books and watching his videos. But in this book, The Music of Time, Preston Nichols, he mentions some pretty cool stuff. Is it true? It's a lot of far-fetched stuff, I think, mixed with potentially true stuff. For example, he was an expert at, let's say, amplifiers and knew how to fix it, rig it, make a regular amplifier into a really grunge-sounding feedback, have a lot of feedback. And Preston claims he invented like the fuzz box for Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
And he said Jimi Hendrix had a regular amplifier, and Preston fixed it, and he accidentally made it have too much feedback. Whoops. And he invented rock and roll.
Yeah.
Anyway, it goes beyond that. Jim Morrison is just recording Riders on the Storm, of all things, right? And so Preston B. Nichols happens to be in the studio. Now, he is an engineer, and he's good with electronics. So maybe he did have some tech access to Phil Spector's Wall of Sound studio to a small extent, a big extent. We don't know, but his name isn't in the credits. You know what I mean? Right. Which is actually pretty common when it comes to technical people in the studio. But he claims they tried to record a storm and there was too much feedback. It sounded like garbage. And Preston figured out how to do it and he recorded the storm in Riders on the Storm.
Oh my
in Riders on the Storm.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's 1,000 stories like this.
That's
And
why it's
there's not a
entertaining.
single photograph of a single one of these musicians. You think if he knew them, even to the small extent, Jimi Hendrix would have got a picture with him if he invented
easy. Someone.
You know?
Yeah.
I think the best proof he has in here is a relative saw one of the Beach Boys come to his house and ask to fix something. And even then, where's the photo? I understand. Where's the photo, because people say the same thing to me. Where's the video? So I guess, take it with a grain of salt, unless someone is diehard. I forgot to mention this. Zach Bagans. People say he's fake. First of all, a fake person concerning haunted objects doesn't buy the biggest collection of haunted objects on the planet and put it in one haunted mansion.
Yep.
I don't, I guess from a horror movie fan, they might think, oh, that might make money. But what if it doesn't? I don't know if he's broken even. Maybe he does good. Maybe he's already made back his money, but who spends tens of thousands on Dr. Kevorkian's van?
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of creepy. You know what I mean? But Zach Bagans believes in it because he's had legitimate experiences. And I think Zach is actually pretty humble in some episodes. For example, there's a lady that said, I've had experiences. I've had spirits. Contact me. And Zach Bagans says, I've had a couple too. No, he hasn't had a couple. He's had thousands. Oh, right. So Zach is pretty humble, despite how he dresses. He dresses kind of like Chris Angel,
Yeah, well, the sad thing about Zach Bagans that I just heard last night, and this is like brand new. I don't know if this is brand new news or whatever. You probably know more about it than I do. But there's this documentary on Netflix, maybe, called Bloodline or Bloodlines or something like this. And this is about Charles Manson's so-called son, that and the funeral of Charles Manson, and basically they show his body. Charles Manson, whatever you think about him, I'm not saying he's a hero or anything like that. He is what he is. But I believe in honoring the death wishes of anybody, any human being. And so he wanted to go cremated and have his ashes scattered in Death Valley. Well, as soon as he died, the son appeared out of nowhere, got the rights to, this grandson appeared out of nowhere, got the rights to the body, kept the body in a refrigerator for 40-some days while he was negotiating with Zach Bagans and Netflix or whoever that put it on. It's a real documentary, and everybody said, okay, yeah, we're gonna have a service. He announced the service in one day. You had to be there in one day in California, up in where was he buried? In Bakersfield or something like that. I think something like that. And so anyway, it's so bad because he wasn't cremated. They had an open casket thing where he was all makeup, and they had to hide his arms, and it got weird. People took a photo. They showed in the documentary, they showed cuts of his dead body, which he didn't want an open casket after rotting for 40 days or whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah. Zach Bagans is involved in that, and it was all a money grab. And to this day, people took it. So finally, he was cremated after that. It was being filmed by everybody. They had to write disclosure. I mean, they had to sign non-disclosure agreements or whatever, or release agreements. And then everybody was kind of travesty. But they did cremate them. But then he sold the ashes to Zach Bagans, and it was made into a painting
that's not what I heard.
Okay.
I heard that the ashes were scattered, and an artist stole the ashes immediately after they were dropped on the ground, and only stole enough to put it in the eyeballs of the painting, and the rest of the painting is made from the blood of the painter. So it's a very disgusting painting. It's very creepy and disgusting. And Zach bought it for thousands of dollars, of course.
Right. Well, I still think it's wrong, and that's basically bordering on a desecration. And
well, Zach purposely has worship and idolize Manson room in the haunted museum.
Oh wow!
Because Zach, see, paraphernalia. Just we're talking. You know how some people have 1,000 Beatles things.
Yep.
Well, he has 1,000 Charles Manson. Obviously, Marilyn Manson used that name for effect, but Charles Manson memorabilia, just his teeth, his television from prison, everything. And Zach wants that room to be super haunted. I don't know if it's going to be, but that's a creepy level. I wouldn't go that far ever. You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I look at Zach and I'm thinking, like you said, like humble, in some ways. But then the other time I'm like, is he into black magic? Is he really like secretly, I mean, not so secretly, really?
I mean, I saw a picture of the inside of the haunted museum, and this book was sitting on the shelf casually.
Yep.
So does Zach read this and perform the stuff in here? I don't know, but he apparently thinks it helps the haunting process.
Exactly. That's really interesting. So. No, I think we lost you. Okay, we're back. Okay. Had a little glitch there. So anyway.
So I have a creepy thing. Speaking of creepy things, you want to see this creepy thing I got?
Of course.
And I don't know why I got it. I'm going to sell it. I'm a fan of the Diablo video games.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And really stupidly, I'm like, you know what? I want to get that. I don't want it, and I think it's a bad thing I shouldn't have got, but I don't obsessively buy random stuff. But we're talking like a month ago. I was like, you know what? That's a good deal. You know how eBay just scams you into good deals?
Yeah.
I got a freaking Diablo action figure.
No way.
Why? Why did I get it? I don't need it.
Yeah, but you're the biggest Diablo fan, and that's your favorite game, right? So
yeah, it's just a video game.
I didn't know they made them. I didn't know they made Diablo.
Well, only for Diablo 2 do they make him.
That's pretty cool.
And he's the most accurate version with the crystal in his head and everything.
Wow.
And it's still in the packaging.
What's the character? Like, what's his name?
His name is Diablo.
Oh.
He's the main guy in the whole game.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
That's him. So I have an action figure of the friggin' devil. So I don't know if that's good.
Yeah, I know. But it's, wow. Yeah, I don't have too many devils in my place.
I think I'm going to get rid of it. I don't know.
I do have some creepy books, though, and sometimes that does scare me. Like, I do have that Necronomicon. And the fact that Zach Baggins thinks it's museum-worthy of, of a dark energy, and I've heard that from many, many people, from E.A. Coetting to Douglas Dietrich to Peter Lavenda to this person, that person, like very randomly, and like weird, like just people that don't even really necessarily know each other, you know what I mean? And I don't know, but I don't feel like I've had any negative things from it, you know what I mean? I think it's possible, and especially like you said with that spell book where it's a used spell grimoire or something, where the smell gets into the leather binding or whatever. Yeah, you don't want to keep those. Like, didn't that book have a smell to it or something? That's why you sold it.
I had a leather edition of necromantic sorcery that was in a felt bag, and the felt bag absorbed this incense, clearly used ritually, and the leather absorbed it, and I aired it out for a year before I sold it. But during that airing out process, I would hear creaks right here.
Mm.
That's where I had it laying flat before I had that many books. And I heard creaks pretty prominently, and he was clearly ritualistically used. So I sold it. I got pretty much my money back, what I paid for it. I didn't get profit. I just wanted to get rid of it.
Wow.
And then I rebought it, a brand new one, never opened, never used, and no problems. So that does tell me there is something to it, you know?
Right. Wow. Interesting. Well, hey man, I just want to stop by and say hi. My girlfriend's coming in super early tomorrow. Got to work, but I'll be listening and keep up the good work, man.
All right.
And
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, man.
And talk to you later. All right. Thanks,
all right,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
So this is pretty much the end of the live stream. I didn't mean to go until 12 a.m. Pacific. Post Malone. Yeah, Post Malone is friends with Zach Bagans, and he touched Zach's shoulder while Zach was touching the box, and that like CCTV footage was magically leaked to TMZ. But Zach Bagans knows the TMZ people, and he gave them that footage. And Post Malone had a car accident, and they attributed it to perhaps a curse from having touched Zach's shoulder in the room where Zach was touching the Dybbuk box. And I think that was hype, although the car accident was obviously real. Who knows how wrapped up they are into it? Post is a fan of the show. I'm a fan of the show. I don't like to criticize the show too much because it does perhaps... I'll tell you what I consider to be one of the worst things on the show. There's one episode, but it's a good show in the context. It causes people to believe in spirits, people that wouldn't normally believe in spirits. I personally watched someone watch 2 years of ghost shows and started out an atheist, self-proclaimed. And then at the end, they believe in ghosts fully. So perhaps they had experiences independent of the show. But firsthand experiences will change your mind pretty quickly. Watching an entertaining show sometimes won't. But if you reproduce the methods, you buy the same equipment, you're going to come up with the same type of results eventually, because it's the real deal. It happens. Walking around at night with these, 1 out of every 5 times I'll run into a spirit. 1 out of every 5 times. It's fairly common, but it can cause them to follow you home. So it's a kind of a scary thing to an extent. But I am going to do a video with my reaction to that footage of Post Malone in the room. And you can see some orbs flying around. And is he into dark stuff? I don't know. You know, I don't want to demonize anybody. But he seems like a good guy. I don't know him personally, though, you know. Yes, some people are receptive to it. Some people mock it and criticize it to an extreme extent. You know, South Park made fun of ghost hunters, where they crap their pants at every small sound. And there's definitely a few clips on YouTube of stuff being faked. Definitely looks fake, you know, here and there. Perhaps they got desperate, and during certain investigations, they didn't capture anything. Like I said, 1 out of every 5 investigations I do, I capture something pretty significant. That's 4 investigations where nothing happened. I guess if they're on a budget, they might be on a different type of stress level, and they are in the method of wanting to come up with something. I'm under a lot less stress. If I don't come up to something, I'll just do a vlog, talk about my opinions. You know, I don't know. But this video is almost over. Happy Halloween. Actually, it's 12:02 a.m. my time, so I got to get going. But happy Halloween. Thank you for participating. We got 17 people watching. I have 9,600 subs, and I appreciate my subs, but this is from 2009. So my oldest sub is 9 years old. And that's a long time ago. They don't log in anymore. But I think there's algorithmic stuff going on. And someone even mentioned that in the comments. I'm going to continue. I'm actually going to vlog live more. I'm going to do another live stream this week. I don't know what day yet. And I'm going to have a guest come on. And we will see what happens. I actually like to support other YouTubers. If any other YouTubers want to collaborate or come on, jump on like Brandon did, feel free to send me a tweet on Twitter at Razimus. Until next time, I thank you for watching. This has been John Razimus with Mysterialis Ghost Investigation, the John Razimus channel, Occult Unmasked, Hoax Hunter is the old show. We got Pyramidical, a lot of different show names. And perhaps new shows in the future. I'm going to do some book reviews of occult books, but I don't practice anything in them. I will eventually read the Necronomicon, but I'm never going to practice the stuff in there. It's kind of scary stuff. I thank you for watching. Be seeing you.